Plenty coming up in the next 3 hours on the show this morning, including who will run your local police force. You decide. Find out more in a bit. The family of Sir Jimmy Savile say they're disgusted by claims he sexually abused schoolgirls during the 1970s. Is it fair to make allegations after someone has died? And today marks the 30th anniversary of the compact disc. What was the first one you bought? You can get in touch lots of ways. You can email 3cr@bbc.co.uk. You can text starting 3CR to 81333. Or, and let's be honest, this is the best way to do it, you can give us a call. 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
I'll tell you my first CD later on. If you've listened to any of the show, you can probably guess what it is. But very excitingly, I had a very exciting weekend. I have to go on this very quickly because otherwise I would feel bad if I didn't. Yeah, I saw the Beach Boys on Friday. That's kind of irrelevant because I saw a show on Sunday that was even better than the Beach Boys. I went and saw Mr. Maker live. Now, to most of you, you're going, huh? Mr. Who? If you've got kids under the age of 4... then you will know who Mr. Maker is. Mr. Maker, basically, he's Neil Buchanan or Tony Hart for the 21st century. He just goes around making stuff. And we saw him live, and then I got to meet him afterwards. And I don't know who was more excited, my 2.5-year-old boy or me. I was over the moon. I couldn't believe it. Very exciting. Thank you, Mr. Maker. Anyway, lots on the show this morning, so let's get cracking, shall we? Next month, you have the chance to vote, to decide who runs your local police force. They'll be called Police and Crime Commissioners. Heard of them? No. Well, it turns out that not many people have. But they're going to have quite an important job. So our political reporter, Paul Scoynes, has put together this handy idiot's guide which should answer some of your questions.
It's been described as the biggest shake-up of policing for 50 years. Police and crime commissioners will pick the chief constable, decide on the priorities for the force and help set the budget. But they won't be in charge of the police on the streets. That'll be left to experienced officers.
Call the police. Hurry, hurry, won't you call the police? Quick, quick, quick. Call the police. Hurry, hurry, 'cause the guy has stole my gal from me.
The Commissioner will listen to victims of crime when setting policy, and it's hoped this will give you a greater say in how your force is run. It replaces the current system of an authority made up of councillors and independents. So who's standing? Anyone's allowed, so long as you've not been convicted of a criminal offence that could have landed you a prison sentence. There's plenty of politicians from Labour and the Conservatives, whose idea it all is. The Lib Dems don't agree with it, but there are some of them standing, and a few smaller parties and independents. There have been complaints that it's too expensive to stand. Just to enter will cost you a whopping £5,000. That shouldn't be a problem for them once they've been elected. Salaries are expected to be between £65,000 and £100,000. But one problem is that not many people know what they are, or that there's an election coming in the first place. Last week, the Electoral Reform Society said these elections are in danger of turning into a farce. Turnout could be as low as 20%. The Home Secretary says there'll be a big campaign about it.
There will be some work being done by the Home Office, obviously neutral in terms of not referring to any candidates, but just about what the role is and what the elections are about.
That's the sound of the police!
But will people bother to turn out for something they don't know much about? It doesn't mean they're not bothered about crime, just perhaps that they've never really thought about the way the police are run. They may have a view on a politician running their force, and that might be what's putting them off.
That's the sound of the police!
What? I like the way that Paul has sexed that story up there by playing some banging tunes. You can find out all about all the candidates standing in our area on our website, bbc.co.uk/3 counties. And from 6 tonight, Roberto will be meeting all the candidates standing in Bedfordshire, hear all their policies for the first time anywhere here on BBC Three Counties Radio. It's interesting, isn't it? I'm aware that these elections are taking place. And I'm sort of got my head around what it is the police and crime commissioners... Basically, they'll be in charge of the police in your area, pretty much. That's the head honcho. But beyond that, I don't know what they're standing for, what they're different... Who, what, where, when, why... And 20% turnout for the election is pretty low. I suspect it might even be less than that. Would you really bother to go and vote on choosing a police and crime commissioner? What they should do is they should put all of these elections on the same day. So you just go in. So everything, the council, your local MP, your police and crime, everything on the same day. So you can just turn up, spend a few minutes ticking different boxes. That would make more sense, wouldn't it? 08459 455 555. Yeah. Today marks the 30th anniversary of the CD. We'll be talking about it a bit later on. I want you to try and have a think. What was the first CD you bought? Now, someone has tweeted me. I can't remember. And I guess that for youngsters, kids, the CDs are all they've ever known. The first CD for me, it was a momentous experience. I remember going into, I think it may have been Dixon's to buy a CD, and it was the Beach Boys. It was Friends 2020, 2 albums, 1 compact disc. It was $8.99. I know that because it's still got the little prize sticker on at the front. And the reason it's so significant is that we didn't even have a CD player. We just bought a CD, thinking, oh, maybe one day Mum will treat us and we'll have a CD player in the house. And when she does, boy, oh boy, am I going to be ready with the late 60s, the Beach Boys album that's probably not one of their finest. So have a think, what was the first CD that you bought? And if you're, I would guess, sort of like 40 or over, it perhaps holds more significance than it does for someone under that age. 81333. Start your text 3CR. Do you remember the CD singles as well? They were rubbish, weren't they? Do you remember them? They were little 3-inch CDs that have the song on it, but then they'd have sort of 2 or 3 really pointless remixes of it. I had, for some reason, the Farms Groovy Train CD single. I know! And it was an awful song, but at the time I remember thinking, yeah, this is it. Boy, oh boy, is music breaking new boundaries with the Farm and Groovy Train. 81333. Start your text 3CR, or you can give us a call, 08459 455 555. The first CD you bought. What was it? Do you still have it? I still play mine quite regularly. In fact, I'm going to dig it out this afternoon. In fact, I'm going through a massive Beach Boys thing after seeing the Beach Boys on Friday night. That was a great concert. It was a great concert, but I would suggest that they are perhaps all a little bit too old now. There was one of them, Bruce Johnston. He looked like he'd won a competition or something, or he just wandered on stage. One of the band's granddads had wandered on stage. It was all a little bit awkward. 6:15, Monday the 1st of October. These are your headlines this morning on BBC Three Counties Radio. With just a month to go before people across beds, Herts and bucks choose who runs their police force, it seems most of us are still in the dark. In a survey commissioned by BBC Three Counties Radio, only 1 in 6 people knew anything about the elections for our new police and crime commissioners. Wickham Hospital in Buckinghamshire closes today. In its place will be a new minor injuries and illness unit. In sport, in rugby's premiership, Saracens won 18-16 at previously unbeaten Harlequins, with Owen Farrell kicking 6 penalties. And coming up, Wendover is apparently one of the best towns in the country to raise a family. That's according to a new survey. What's so great about Wendover? If you live there, could you give me a call and tell me, do you agree with this? Is Wendover a great place to bring up a family? Or do you think maybe it's a little bit dull? 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Why on earth would you want to chat up a dentist or a hygienist? Have you seen what hygienists do? It's disgusting. I remember for years the Beatles CDs were like about £6 more than everyone else's CDs. If you went into HMV or Our Price or something, Our Price, they were well expensive. I don't think they are so much now. Beatles Day, this Friday, the 5th of October, to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the release of Love Me Do, the first single to be released by the Beatles in 1963, is Beatles Day. If you've got any Beatles story, And I don't care how tenuous they are. In fact, I like them. The more tenuous they are, the better, as far as I'm concerned. That may not be the official policy of BBC Three Counties Radio on this, but it's certainly my official policy. Could you send us an email? Put the subject heading Beatles Day and send it to 3cr@bbc.co.uk. Let us know your Beatles story. The more tenuous ones, we'll have a little section on the show on Friday, I think, where the ones that are really, maybe you walked past a picture of Paul McCartney once. Can we do that on Friday? We're going to have very tenuous Beatles connections on this show, as well as some proper ones as well, don't worry. And Dean has tweeted me, Iain Lee, wish you were here. I thought they were being nice. I'm guessing that's the first CD they ever bought. I would like to think it was. Thank you very much. Wasn't it summer, like three days ago or something? What's happened to us? How do we get to autumn so quickly? Hey, do you live in Wendover? Well, apparently, Wendover in Buckinghamshire has been named as one of the best towns in the UK to bring up children. If you live there, I'd love to get your thoughts on this. Why is it so good? It's according to a survey released by Family Investments. What is so good about Wendover? Could you give me a call and let me know? 08459 455 555. Well, Katie Shute is a trainee architect. She grew up in the town. Good morning, Katie.
Good morning.
What's so good about Wendover?
It's just a fantastic place to live, really. Everything about it's fantastic. It's really good for the outdoors. You've got the Chiltern Hills so close by and Wendover Woods, so, it's got parks and things as well. It's a really nice community.
Has it got lots of nice little restaurants and good places to... It's been a long time since I've been to Wendover, so I'm curious to know if it's changed at all recently.
Right, yeah, no, there's lots of restaurants and lots of pubs that do food as well. So I think that attracts people from other areas to come to Wendover.
But Katie, I have to say, you don't live in Wendover anymore, do you? Why did you move away? If it's so good, Katie, if it's so fantastic, why did you leave?
I'm studying Oxford Brookes, so I'm living in Oxford at the moment.
Oh, okay.
But I do like to pop back and see my family whenever I can.
Do you, when you say pop back to see your family, is that just to take a load of washing for Mum?
No, not at all. No,
Okay.
It's
That's nice to do.
yeah, of course.
What was it like growing up there, though? Because sometimes these lovely places that we know are good for families and kids, actually, when you're a kid, they can be a little bit dull.
No, I wouldn't say so. I'd say it's a nice enough size that, you know quite a few of the kids in the area because you probably all go to the same school with each other and, you can just cycle round to their house and, go and play out in the park with them. And, yeah, but I think I loved it. The schools there were great as well.
Yeah.
So I thought it was great as a kid.
It's what we're getting people. Hopefully, people are going to call in today and tell us why Wendover is so good because the survey doesn't go into the specifics of why it's such an amazing place. If you had to pick one thing, Katie, that made Wendover, I know the pressure's on now. I'm going to say this sentence very slowly so you've got time to think. One thing that makes Wendover so good for families with young kids. What would it be?
I'd say probably the Chiltern Hills.
The Chiltern Hills. You can't go wrong with a bit of Chiltern Hills.
No, I think so.
Are you going to move back there when you finish college?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It's a great place to be, and I know lots of people still there as well. So it's always nice to go back and walk down the high street and see a friendly face.
And you're studying architecture.
I am.
How long does that take? Is that I'm hoping it's a course that goes on for like 5 or 6 years.
Yes.
Good.
It's 7 years in total.
Wow.
And I'm in my last year studying at the moment.
What is it? Sorry to go off on a ever slight tangent. I hope you'll indulge me. As part of your training, do you get to design a building that's going to be made?
Not as part of your uni training, but you have to work in an actual practice.
Yeah.
And I worked at HFP Architects in Wendover. They're on Back Street.
Yeah.
And so I was designing things that were actually going to get made.
Have you designed something that's been built?
Yes. Yeah.
See, now, listen, you're an architect, so that's like, yeah, whatever. But to me, that's the coolest thing. And did you go in it, and did you kind of walk around and take your mum and dad and go, you see this building? Yeah, I did this.
I haven't quite taken my mum and dad, but, no, yeah, it's quite cool seeing it on site.
I think it's very cool. Katie, listen, thank you very much. Good luck.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. If I was an architect, I would spend all the time just leaning on buildings, and as people went in and go, yeah, you see this? Yeah, I did that. That door, yeah, that was my idea, to put that door there. If I hadn't decided to put a door there, you wouldn't be able to get into the building. I'd be doing that all the time. But I go off on a slight tangent, and there's no need for that. Wendover, if you live there, can you give me a call and tell me why it's so good, please? It's years and years since I've been there. I think I drove through there recently, but I've not been there for a while. I'm thinking I'm going to have to go and have a look. I might go and have lunch there one day this week. 08459 455 555. Why is Wendover such a good place to bring up kids? And when you kind of move somewhere, I know this being a dad now, and we're thinking of moving at the moment. And when you move and you've got when you haven't got kids, it's like, oh yeah, that looks nice, we'll go and live there. Oh, that's near, some good pubs, we'll go and live there. But when you've got kids, suddenly the whole kind of area... Is it near a park? The schools? What are the schools? Oh, they're only good. We want excellent. What things do you look for when you're moving? 08459 455 555 is the telephone number. We're also asking today, on the 30th anniversary of compact discs. Do you remember when they had a compact disc on, I think it was Tomorrow's World, and they smeared it with jam to show you that this thing would last forever? They don't. They don't last forever. If you've got a kid, or if you scratch one of those things, thanks very much. But we're asking your first CD that you ever bought. Mr. Wolf says, only one album I can make my first to buy on CD, Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. Can I be honest with you, dear listener? Pink Floyd, I don't get them. I find them very, very tedious. Wish You Were Here is a nice song. Is that one of their songs? No, I've said it out loud. It doesn't sound right. Yeah, it's a nice song, but really? As a band? Come on, guys, you can do better than that. And we'll be talking later on. There's a documentary on, I think, Wednesday evening, where several people come forward and claim they were abused by Jimmy Savile. And we'll be talking about that a little bit later on. Nick in Hitchin has texted in 81333, starting his text 3CR. Whoever it is who has made the allegations against the late Sir Jimmy is merely an attention seeker trying to make a name for themselves against someone who can't defend themselves. Whoever it is should hang their head in shame. Don't give them a moment of airtime and they will shrivel up like a worm in despair. Well, Nick, it's interesting that's your opinion, but what if these allegations are true? Then shouldn't they be allowed to come out and say them? Isn't that only fair? We'll be asking later on, is it fair to make allegations like this against someone who's died? Don't forget, you can get in touch about any of the stories we're talking about this morning. You can email 3cr@bbc.co.uk. You can text 81333, starting your text 3CR, or you can give us a call, 08459 455 555. Time now to get the latest news and sport with Catherine Boyle.
Across beds, hearts and bucks, this is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning to listener Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. Yes, you may have noticed I'm getting a little bit of a throat. Oh dear, it's the beginning of week 4 and already he's collapsing. How terrible would that be? Coming up on the show, we'll be talking about the Ryder Cup. We'll be talking about Jimmy Savile, and we'll also be discussing Greg Rutherford and his victory parade that happened over the weekend. 08459 455 555. Also talking about the police and the crime commissioners. But first of all, how did this record sneak back into our playlist? Robbie Williams, Candy. I wouldn't say it was one of his best. And it's probably the last time you're going to hear it on The Breakfast Show. But apart from that, well done. Well done, Robbie. Excellent work there. Good morning, this is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number if you want to give us a call. Now, you may not know very much about the new police and crime commissioners in Beds, Herts and Bucks. Well, you're not alone. It turns out that awareness about them is pretty low. Research commissioned by BBC Three Counties Radio from the University of Bedfordshire has revealed that of the 306 people surveyed, just 49 knew what they were, and only 50 knew about November's elections. I'm joined in the studio now by students Sam Holden and Abby Henderson. Good morning.
Morning.
Hi.
He says just remembering to turn the microphones on in time, which is always a bonus in these things. You were part of the team from the university that carried out the research. Sam, where did you carry out this snapshot survey?
So we had 3 different sites.
Yep.
We had a site in Luton, a site in Hemel Hempstead, and a site in Milton Keynes.
Yep.
And at each site we asked 102 people. A straight split, 51 male, 51 female, in 3 different age groups, about these upcoming elections.
Can I ask, why 102 people? Is there a reason for that? Because you always see this on these surveys. We asked 276. Why not the straight 100? Wouldn't that make it easier to do the sums?
I think people are suspicious when there's a round number. So to make it look legit, we had to, 102.
Abby, what were the sort of headline findings? What were the main things that came out?
No one was really aware of it at all. I mean, it was mainly the older generation that did have awareness of it.
We can say old people. They won't be offended. They won't be offended.
But even so, no one was really bothered, particularly with voting, because no one was aware of it. They didn't know what the new police commissioners were going to do. They felt that they didn't need to vote because they didn't necessarily agree with it.
And Sam, you were saying before we came on air that they didn't even express much interest in it once you told them what was going on.
No, that was the thing. We thought that we'd have to answer quite a lot of questions about what police and crime commissioners would be doing.
Had you studied up on it so you could answer these questions?
Oh yeah, I swatted up
Good for you, well
like a student 10 minutes before we did it. No, we knew we had a briefing and we knew quite a lot about it, and we were expecting to have to kind of impart this knowledge.
Yeah.
But no one was that interested really. Even there was a few people that asked about it, but most people just weren't that interested in what it was. I think they treated it as if it was going to be just another kind of harebrained scheme.
Those aged 18 to 30, Abby, had the lowest awareness.
Yes.
I guess we could kind of expect that, really. How much did you know personally about the PCCs before you undertook this work?
Well, I mean, we'd been obviously learning it because obviously I study along those lines. But before that, I would have had no idea. If I didn't study the course that I do, I'd have had absolutely no idea either. So it's kind of understandable.
Well, something's gone wrong then somewhere, hasn't it? If no one knows about these elections, and then when they do know about these elections, they're like, yeah, whatever, then something's gone wrong somewhere, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think the problem is even the people that we'd asked them what they thought a commissioner did. The normal answer was probably not a lot. I think people are always very sceptical of change, but people just don't seem that interested. They're not engaging in what's going on.
Well, we're talking about it all morning, something that no one's interested in. So now we've got, listen, thank you very much, Sam Holden and Abby Henderson. And you can find out about all of the candidates standing in our area on our website, bbc.co.uk, 3 counties. And from 6 tonight, Roberto will be meeting all the candidates standing in Bedfordshire. You can hear all their policies for the first time anywhere here on BBC 3 Counties Radio. If you want to give us a call this morning, 08459 455 555. Now, over the weekend, you may have heard about the allegations made against Sir Jimmy Savile. In a documentary being broadcast this week, several women have made claims they were sexually abused by the TV presenter. Exposure, the other side of Jimmy Savile, will be broadcast on ITV1 on Wednesday. The Childline founder, Esther Ranson, says she believes the evidence.
I had absolutely decided that I would not make up my mind because he's not here to defend himself. But I must say, what these women say is so matter of fact. They corroborate each other. The style of the abuse and the attack on them was absolutely consistent one with each other. I'm afraid the jury isn't out anymore.
In a statement, the BBC said no evidence of allegations on its premises had been found. The former controller of Radio 1, Johnny Beerling, was at the station from its start in 1967 and worked alongside Jimmy Savile for 19 years.
I worked with the man on and off for a number of years. I never saw any sign of it. To me, he was a great guy. I went to his funeral up here, and if you saw the following that he had up here in Leeds, I live in Skipton up in the north of England, the man is a hero, and I can't think that he would have been a hero if there were sort of things like that floating around in his background.
Well, a close friend of Sir Jimmy's, Howard Silverman, said the presenter would be disappointed by the claims.
He hated anything like this. Yes, we'd go out, and probably quite a few of the girls were a bit younger, but none of them were underage. In fact, would run away in a million years. You know, he just wouldn't do that. It wasn't Jimmy that, and it really gets to me.
Well, Roger Foster, Sir Jimmy's nephew, said his family is disgusted and disappointed that the allegations are being made when Sir Jimmy is no longer around to defend himself. What do you think? I don't particularly want to go into the specifics of Jimmy Savile, but I'm kind of interested. Is it right to make allegations after someone's died? 08459 455 555. Ken is in Sandy, and Ken, you're furious.
I'm absolutely furious, yes, because I knew Jimmy personally because I was coordinator of his fundraising team. I worked with him for 3 years.
So you must have met him quite a few times?
I did. I met him for 3 years, nearly every other week, where he would collect cheques from people who wanted to see the spinal unit come up and be there. And how the money came about was that in Sandy, our headquarters were at 4 Pims Way. We had a photocopying machine, and we used a Willings guide and sent letters to every paper in the country and every school.
Yeah.
People flocked to...
Okay, listen, no one is in any way denying that he raised an enormous amount of money for charity.
Yes.
But have you considered the possibility... Now, I haven't seen this documentary. From what I can tell, I think there are 3 or 4 women who've all come forward and have all got... they weren't paid for their interviews, and they've all got very similar stories.
Well, I don't believe it.
Well, have you considered for a second that it might be true?
I don't think it will be true at all.
What makes you so sure?
Because I know he was a Catholic anyhow.
Well, I'll stop you there. That doesn't necessarily guarantee anything, Ken.
Well, I feel that I knew him, and he's very highly respected, and I don't think he would do anything like that.
You're currently campaigning, aren't you, to get a brick removed from a shop
right. Well,
in Jimmy's honour? What's this about?
Well, I lost the battle. What happened was... We had so many bricks made, and they were...
Why did you have bricks made? I'm slightly... Fill me in on the whole story.
Around the sticker brick appeal, where people could have like a stamp and stick it on a chart, and that's what we sent to schools. And what we tried to do is raise enough money for 145,000 bricks for the spinal unit.
Right.
That's how the brick got involved.
What brick? I don't know what brick you're talking about, Ken.
The brick that was made was it was a year of the disabled. Someone approached me and said, we'd like to make some special bricks for the Jimmy Savile appeal.
Yes.
And they made a lot of money by doing that. And companies and organisations bought the bricks, paid £100 or more for them, and put them in their buildings.
Right, so there's a brick that Jimmy Savile made. It's in a building somewhere, and what kind of shop is it?
It's in a sex shop in Tempsford, and it's in my house, in front of my house, my extension.
OK. Ken, I got slightly confused by that story, but listen, thank you very much for coming on and defending Sir Jimmy.
Well, he was absolutely a brilliant man.
There we go. Thank you very much. Ken in Sandy. I got a little bit confused with the story about the brick there, brick in a sex shop in the front of his house, but I think we got the main thrust that Ken thinks it's outrageous to make allegations against someone who's no longer here to defend themselves. What do you think? 6:45, Monday the 1st of October. These are your headlines this morning on BBC Three Counties Radio. Europe's golfers produced a stunning final day comeback to win the Ryder Cup at Medina Country Club. A month before elections to decide the new police commissioners for Beds, Herts and Bucks, research commissioned by BBC Three Counties Radio has found that just 1 in 6 of us know anything about it. In sport, in rugby's premiership, Saracens won 18-16 at previously unbeaten Harlequins, with Owen Farrell kicking 6 penalties. Your weather across Beds, Herts and Bucks. It's a cloudy morning with outbreaks of rain, gradually becoming dry by the afternoon. Top temperature is 17 degrees. Coming up, find out more about the new minor injuries and illness unit that opens at Wickham Hospital today. It sounds good, but there's a lot more to it.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Do you live in Wendover? Apparently, it's one of the greatest places in the country to raise a family. I'd love to know why. I'd also like to speak to you if you disagree with that. You go, well, actually, there's not really a lot here. Diane's in Bletchley. Good morning, Diane.
Good morning.
Do you live in Wendover?
I don't know, no. I went to school there.
Everybody seems to be moving out of Wendover. What's wrong with the place?
I can only think the traffic. That's the only thing I can think of. There isn't a bypass that people use. Well, there is now. There is one now, isn't there? But we did used to get lorries going through it.
So you grew up there?
I was born in Western Turville, but I went to school in Wendover.
Right.
And my 10 cousins in Wendover, they all went to school there, and they still actually live in Wendover.
What was so great about going to school in that area?
Well, the schools are excellent. My 2 children went to the primary school there. My daughter went on to John Collett there, and my son went to grammar school in Aylesbury, but my daughter's ended up a chartered accountant in London, and my son hasn't done so well.
Oh, why not? What's your son doing?
He's working, but he doesn't seem to have the enthusiasm that my daughter has. My daughter could have gone to grammar, but she was advised to go to John Collett.
Is he happy though, Diane?
Is my son happy?
Yeah.
Yes, oh yeah.
Well, that's all. As a parent, that's all you can ask for, isn't it? He may not have the sparkling career that your daughter's got, but
he's very intelligent, too intelligent. But my daughter was encouraged so much at John Collett, whereas you're not so much at grammar school. You never do well enough. But John Collett was excellent. I went there. I wasn't intelligent, but we've all done well for ourselves.
Well then, Diane, there you go. Fantastic. Diane in Bletchley there. I feel I know all about her family history. No one from who lives in Wendover and has stayed in Wendover has got in touch with us yet. 08459 455 555. We need to find someone who lives in Wendover, thinks it's great, and is staying in Wendover. Everyone seems to move out. It's not particularly the best advert for it, is it? Also, what was the first CD you ever bought? 08459 455 555. We have clarity on the Jimmy Savile sex shop brick. We have clarity. If you were listening in the last 10 minutes, we had, I think it was Ken, who I think may have been a little bit nervous about being on the radio and got a little bit flustered with the story about a brick that he's trying to save. Basically, there was a campaign years ago where people could pay for bricks and get bricks put in buildings, and Jimmy Savile paid for a brick, and it got put into a cafe, and then at some point the cafe turned into a naughty, naughty shop that sells naughty, naughty things. And Ken's campaign is to try and get that brick out of the naughty shop. Now, how you go about getting a brick out of a shop like that, I have no idea. But that's what that was. So Jimmy Savile did not put a brick in an adult shop. It was a cafe, and then it became said adult shop. I hope we have cleared that up for you. I really do. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number if you want to give us a call. Now, a new minor injuries and illness unit opens at Wickham Hospital today, but it comes at a cost. The Emergency Medical Centre will close instead. Now, shutting down departments always has a knock-on effect on local patients. A family who knows exactly how that feels is the Debonaires. Since Royston Hospital is no longer open, Graham's ill father was initially sent to Addenbrooke's in Cambridgeshire for treatment, but has now been moved to Welwyn Garden City. Despite the Queen Memorial being in the same county, it's actually much further away from the family home, as he explains to our reporter, Serena Farrow.
Addenbrooke's is around about 24 mile round trip, which we were doing for around about 5.5 months whilst my father was in hospital, and it's a lot easier to get to. So actually, the arrangements for visiting have become an awful lot harder. I go on my own once a week. I take my mother once a week. My brother goes there twice a week. So the round trip is around about 55 miles. The costs are around about £100 a week to visit.
Wow. And, well, not to mention your time out of all that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's quite difficult to actually organise things. For example, my brother, instead of being able to pop in after work, he's having to break a train journey up from London, take a taxi to the hospital to visit my father in the evenings.
So there's absolutely no way he could live at home, though, is there?
My dad had a fall about 6 months ago, broke some vertebrae in his neck. And since then, he's also developed problems actually eating and drinking, and he's being fed through a peg into his stomach. Because my dad's 91, my mother's 81 and very unsteady on her feet, and doesn't feel that she can actually provide the level of care that's required at home for him. But we're having a meeting, and it sounds like they just want to issue him from the hospital within 6 weeks. So he's got 2 more weeks in the hospital, and then he's going to be released back into the home. We have no idea what the care facilities are going to be. Well, we're hoping that care facilities will come to the home. Part of the trouble with having a hospital this far away is the staff within the hospital don't understand what the local facilities are in Royston. They're working in the dark as well. Really, they're not set up for it. For example, my dad needed a chiropractor whilst he was in the hospital, and we were told they couldn't get hold of a local one. Perhaps we could send our local chiropractor to him, which is just ridiculous. You're not going to get a chiropractor who's going to go out and do a 50-mile round trip to do a visit. So they're not set up for the fact that they're trying to support people who live in Royston.
I know it's a while since Royston closed, but even so, Addenbrook's just down the road. But if you had one here, your life would be so much easier.
It wouldn't just be easier for us. What I'm more worried about is the fact that even though we are managing to get in 5 shortish visits per week, I can see the difference that it's having on my dad mentally, because he's not getting the stimulation that he requires, and so therefore that's a big concern. And obviously, were he to be local, we would pop in once or twice a day, and it would be not only easier for us, but so much better for my father in terms of the level of care.
That's our reporter Serena Farrow speaking to Graham Debonairs about the impact the transfer from Addenbrooks to Welwyn Garden City has had on him and his family. We've been asking for your first CD. What's the first CD? It's the 30th birthday of compact discs. My first CD was Roxette. Look sharp, Catherine. Roxette, oh my God. And David in Marsh Farm, my first CD was the best of BBC TV themes. How do I know? I used to mark them with Tipex. The 6th one was Fairground Attraction. Well, this takes off into a whole different tangent, doesn't it? What have you written on records or CDs? Now, this Friday is Beatles Day across the BBC, and on the day itself, we're wanting to hear your Fab Four memories. If you ever saw them perform, you ever met them, do get in touch. On this show, I'd like to do a little tenuous Beatles link section, if we can. So if you... the most tenuous connection to the Beatles will get read out on this show. BBC Introducing has also got involved with Beatles Day. And today we're going to play From Me to You, which was released by the Beatles in '63, but this is a cover version by Ghostly Dancers from Bedford. This is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. Lots coming up. I want to find someone who lives in Wendover and loves it. You all seem to have moved out. Here's the news with Catherine. Well, suddenly it's 7 o'clock. This is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. Here until 9. Plenty of stuff coming up in the next couple of hours, including... Europe's golfers have staged one of the greatest comebacks in sporting history to retain the Ryder Cup. I'm asking, when have you beaten the odds? And also, why on earth is our reporter Justin Dealey at a pub in Bedford?
Well, Ian, I'm not the only one, it's got to be said. I'm also here with MP Richard Fuller, the Bedford MP. Oh, I'd say it's good first thing in the morning. You'll find out exactly why I'm here before 7:15.
I just don't understand it. And there's a ban on clamping on private land, which is being brought into force today. How much sympathy do you have for people who flout the parking rules? If you want to give us a call about this or any of the things we're talking about, 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Now, in golf, Europe produced a sensational last-day comeback, apparently, to retain... I must be the only person that didn't see this. To retain the Ryder Cup, beating the United States by 14.5 points to 13.5 at Medina yesterday. The Americans were leading 10-6 going into the 12 singles matches, with Europe winning 8. Including victories for Woburn's Ian Poulter and High Wycombe's Luke Donald. This was the crucial moment the team drew level to retain the trophy.
It's come down to this. 5 feet. Martin Keimer on the 18th green at Medina sends it on its way. And in! And in! And the cup is safely in European hands. And he leaps into the arms of his captain. And he's lifted aloft. Martin Keimer's the hero. And Europe have retained the cup.
Well, Ken West has been a member of Hazelmere Golf Club since it opened 30 years ago. He's a past captain and used to play against Luke Donald as a junior. Good morning, Ken.
Good morning. How are you?
Ken, I have to lay my cards on the table. I know nothing about golf, and if I'm honest, and don't judge me, I find golf a little bit dull.
No, I can't believe that. Golf is never dull, no matter where it's played.
Well, apparently last night was very, very exciting. Why is this so important, Ken? I'm an idiot. Talk to me as though I won. Why is this such a big deal?
Well, I think the Ryder Cup is the biggest event in golf.
Yep.
The majors are very exciting, but everyone looks forward to the Ryder Cup. It's a case of it's not an individual competition, it is a team competition, and that makes a great deal of difference. And it is more difficult to play a team competition than it is an individual competition, because if you play an individual, you've only got yourself to blame if you don't do well. But with a team, you've got the rest of the team relying on you, and that makes a lot more pressure on you. But it is still great fun.
It was. I've looked at the stats. It was an amazing fight back by Europe. Did you think they could do it, or had you written them off?
To be absolutely honest with you, I didn't think they could do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we've got a great team, but the Americans have been playing so well up till then, I really didn't think that we could win 8 of the 12 single events.
Was there a key moment yesterday when things kind of turned round into Europe's favour?
Well, I don't think there was any specific single moment. It gradually built up to a crescendo. I mean, Luke Donald went out first and he won his competition, which was an extremely difficult competition because, as the first person out, you needed to get the points on the table there. He was playing against Bubba Watson, who was an extremely long hitter. He hits the ball a long way, and that is daunting if you're playing against him, but he kept his head and played coolly, and then gradually each person behind him gradually came in and they did their part and won their particular competition. So it built up to a crescendo, and the last few teams were out there where it was very close, because the last 2 teams were actually the matches were all square, I think about 2 or 3 holes out, and we needed 1 point. So they've got to a real high at the end.
Ken, last week on the show we played a clip of I think it was the American captain, who seemed like a rather unpleasant fellow, who said that he was going to go out there and beat everyone's brains in and psych them out. Is it possible to psych out other players when you're on is there a big psychological battle going on when you're playing against someone?
Yes, I think there is. And some of the competitions turn to get really nasty at times. But I must be honest, yesterday I thought the crowd were very good. I thought the teams were very good in themselves. I mean, if you'd had watched it, at one stage when Luke had won his point and the crowd were cheering and his opponent was about to take a putt, he actually helped quieten the crowd down, and that occurred more than once in that competition, which I think is really good sportsmanship.
The Americans must be gutted, though. How are they going to handle this defeat?
No, it must be terrible for them, because it's bad enough.
You sounded so sincere when you said that, Ken. It must be terrible for them.
If you lose a competition, it's bad.
Yep.
But when you lose from such a lead, it's difficult to live with, quite honestly.
OK, final question, Ken, and it is an impossible question, but I want an answer from you.
Certainly.
Can you pick one player from the European team that stood out for you?
Luke Donald.
Really? He's your mate, isn't he?
Biased.
He's your buddy.
I might be biased, but if you ask me second, then it's got to be Ian Poulter.
Ken, well, listen, enjoy the celebrations. Thank you very much for coming on and not hating me because I don't like golf.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you, Ken. There we go. It's Ken West, who's a member of the Hazelmere Golf Club, has been since it opened 30 years ago, and he's mates with Luke Donald, so of course he's going to pick him as his favourite. 08459 455 555. You can text as well, 81333. Start your text 3CR. We've been mentioning there is a documentary on ITV, I think, on Wednesday, where several women come forward and make claims that Jimmy Savile sexually abused them when they were young girls. Ria's texted him. This rubbish about Jimmy Savile. If he abused these girls, why not say something when he was alive? That way he would have had the chance to defend himself and prove his innocence, or he could have been proven guilty and punished. I think these women are in it for the money, personally. Doesn't take long for people to latch onto stories and use it to their advantage. Well, it has to be said that I believe that none of these women were paid to be in this documentary. That no money has exchanged hands. I think. I could be wrong on that. And if someone knows differently, then do let me know. I am curious. Is it acceptable to make these allegations about someone once they've died? But if these things happen, then they should be able to... I don't know. It's a long story. Coming up, we'll be talking to the chairman of the steering group. They set up a memorial to Jimmy Savile in Scarborough. Now, you may have noticed that there are fewer pubs where you live in Beds, Herts and Bucks. Well, since the start of the year, an average of 12 pubs have closed every week in the country. 12 pubs every week, as according to the British Beer and Pub Association, the all-party parliamentary beer group to protect the great British institution that is the pub, was launched last year. Today, Richard Fuller, MP for Bedford and Kempston, will be pulling pints at the Embankment in Bedford. Our reporter, Justin Dealey, is there. Morning, Justin! Oh, Justin, where are you? Oh, we seem to have lost Justin Dealey. I suspect, and I don't want to cast any aspersions about Justin, but he's in a pub. It's 7:10 in the morning. Who knows what could have gone wrong? Justin does get all of the best gigs, by the way. He was in a Greasy Spoon last week. He was somewhere else delicious the week before. Well, we'll do our best to get Justin back. But I'll be honest. Is he there, Justin? Are you there? No. Yeah, Justin. You're very, very quiet. I don't quite know why. Well, I'm in the pub, that's why. That would be why. Listen, Justin, we're going to work on you because I can't hear you very well. While we're trying to find Justin Dealey, he's probably locked in the loo or something. We'll have a quick look at the front page of the newspapers, shall we? I'll get a thumbs up when we have Justin back, or we may come to him a little bit later on. The Daily Telegraph. Secret police probe into Labour MP's £500,000. Apparently Keith Vaz. There may be money in his accounts. And there's also a picture of Rory McIlroy. I can never say his name. There's a letter missing from his name, surely, celebrating the Ryder Cup victory that we spoke about just then. Oh, The Guardian have stopped giving away kids' CDs. I was loving that last week. We'll talk about that in a second. Justin!
Yeah, come to me now, OK?
Justin!
All right, cheers, bye.
Justin!
Hello, Ian, can you hear me OK?
Well, yeah, we just heard you taking a phone call from your... What on earth is going on there this morning, man? Pull yourself together. I know you're excited, but get a grip.
It's what's called the technicals of the radio car in Bedford.
Go on, what have you got for us?
When you get behind the bar, well, yeah, as you say, it's a special day today because Richard Fuller, the MP for Bedford, he's going to be behind the bar here at the Embankment. We'll talk to the manager in just a second. But, Richard, what exactly is an MP doing in a pub at 7 o'clock in the morning? Tell us more.
Yeah, that might cause some concern to the good people of Bedford and Kempston know their MPs in a pub on 7 o'clock on a Monday morning. But I'm here because I wanted to draw attention to the invaluable role that pubs play in our local community through their charitable endeavours and through providing a community place for people to turn up and enjoy and to socialise, but also to highlight some of the challenges that some of our pubs are facing. Challenges in terms of tax increases year on year, and also challenges that led to some pubs closing, like the Bird and Hand pub recently in Brickhill.
We're going to be speaking to the manager in just a second, but just lastly to you, just how important do you think the local pub still is?
I think it's invaluable. I think if I look at the lots of stuff in terms of charities and how they raise money, they go to their local pub, local landlords, and the landlords are always very willing to reach out and do something to help some of the causes in Bedford, some of which are quite challenged at the moment because we're going through difficult times. So I think they're valuable. They're also important in tackling isolation. You know, with alcohol price so low in supermarkets, a lot of people go stock up on alcohol and go home and drink on their own. That's not a healthy outcome for people. We need to increase prices on alcohol in supermarkets and actually get people into pubs, because actually it's the best place to have a drink and to socialise.
You might get lots of grief being here today behind the bar, 12 until 2. No. Whilst you're pulling that pint, what about my tree round the corner? Is that going to be repaired? So you might be in for some grief.
I'm up for that. Come along, lunchtime today, 12 till 2. Let's pull a pint and have a chat.
Bless you. And a quick question as well to Andrew Croth. You're the manager here. You've got a fantastic location on the Embankment, but even with a location like this, you're still struggling, aren't you?
Yeah, we've faced lots of challenges this summer due to the weather, and we're facing lots of challenges also due to the tax increases. We've increased, our beer prices have increased over by 40% since 2008.
And in 15 seconds, obviously we're losing 12 pubs a week. It's a quick answer, but in a nutshell, what do you think needs to be done to protect pubs moving forward?
I think the cheap alcohol in supermarkets is one of the things that contributes a lot more people staying in. We would like people to come out to the pub, support the pub, and we've got a great community pub here in Bedford, being the Embankment, and we want people to come along and support us.
Terrific stuff. Thanks for your time, guys. So there you go. We had a few problems to start with behind the bar, but outside the pub we seem to be okay. And there you had the MP, Richard Fuller, and Andrew, the manager here of the pub, the Embankment in Bedford. So come and see Richard today. He's here really to try and find out a bit more about how pubs have been struggling, but the idea, of course, is to save the British boozer.
Good morning, it's 7:16. It's Monday, the 1st of October. These are your headlines this morning on BBC Three Counties Radio. Europe's golfers have held on to the Ryder Cup with one of the greatest victories in the 85-year-old competition. Research commissioned by BBC Three Counties Radio suggests that 5 out of 6 of us haven't got a clue we'll have the chance to elect a set of brand new police commissioners next month. In sport, a As England's cricketers prepare to play a vital match against host Sri Lanka in the World 2020 today, it appears Kevin Peterson is about to be welcomed back into the England fold. And coming up, have you got your hats and whistles? We'll be finding out about a party in Manchester today. Yeah, it's the Labour Party. Today is the first full day of their annual conference, but they admit they've still got some way to go to regain public support.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Now, over the weekend, you may have heard about the allegations made against Sir Jimmy Savile. In a documentary being broadcast this week, several women have come forward and made claims they were sexually abused by the TV presenter. Exposure, the other side of Jimmy Savile, will be broadcast on ITV1 on Wednesday. The family of the Jim Will Fix It star say they are disgusted by the claims. Well, David Jessels is organising a memorial for Jimmy and says he can't believe it. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Ian.
What did you... very quickly, whereabouts is this the memorial for, and what is it going to be?
Well, briefly, what it is, Jimmy spent a great deal of his life in Scarborough. He had a flat here, and in actual fact, he is buried in the town cemetery. And he has had a long association with the town, and Scarborough holds him in very great affection, and has done for very many years. So much so that the Borough Council did make him a freeman of the borough.
Did you know Jimmy personally?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm a member of the Borough Council and leading the steering group that's hoping to provide a memorial to him.
David, what did you make when you first heard these allegations? Did you hear them at the weekend?
I did indeed, yes. I was very saddened by them, but of course they are just that. They are allegations, because sadly there's nobody around to be able to refute them or comment on them from Jimmy's point of view.
What's your gut feeling, David?
I don't know. I can't help but wonder why people have come forward with these allegations after all this time. I mean, bearing in mind that we're told that they happened way back in the 70s, why didn't somebody come forward and say about them? What's the motivation in this? Is it money, or is there some other reason? I think it's very sad. I mean, he was a tremendously popular person, not just in Scarborough, but nationwide as well. I mean, he raised over £40 million for charity, and I know in Scarborough he could charm everybody off the trees. He was a wonderful fellow. When you get him along to a coffee morning, he would open anything. He was such a larger-than-life personality and a very much-loved man.
Oh, he was, and he raised an enormous amount for charity, and the £40 million is not to be sniffed at. I guess one possible angle on this, and why they're coming out now, is obviously if there has been abuse, and I don't know one way or the other, I've not seen the programme, I don't know, I'm just forwarding this. If there has been abuse, there is often a lot of guilt and shame and fear around it, isn't there, from the victims? And perhaps that's why, if this is true, they've waited until he's passed away.
Yes, that could well be the case. And of course, these days, it's much more. People feel much happier or much more relaxed about coming out and speaking about this kind of thing than they probably would have done in the 70s, particularly when he was at the height of his career, because they probably thought that they wouldn't have been believed.
David, finally, do you think that these allegations will take anything away from the memorial that you're setting up?
I hope it doesn't. Just how long they are going to rumble on, I don't know. But we're hoping to raise a considerable amount of money to honour somebody who, certainly in Scarborough, was held in very high regard.
David, thank you so much for coming on.
No problem.
There he goes, David Jessels there, and interesting. We can't really talk about the specifics of Jimmy Savile because we don't know. I haven't seen the programme, and we don't know. I know a lot of you are furious that these allegations are being made. And I guess the question is it fair to make allegations after someone's died? Because it is going to be, by definition, quite one-sided, isn't it? The other person isn't there to defend himself or refute. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number. Now, it's the first full day of Labour's annual conference in Manchester today. The party is ahead in the opinion polls at the halfway stage of the Parliament. And 2 years into his leadership, it would appear that Ed Miliband's position is safe. But the party admits it's still got some way to go to regain enough public support if it's to win outright at the next election. Well, Andrew Pakes is the prospective Labour MP for Milton Keynes South. He joins us from the GMEX Centre in Manchester. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, Ian, from the slightly grey Manchester.
Manchester.
Yeah, well, it's slightly grey all over the place, so don't worry about that. The Shadow Chancellor, Ed Balls, is going to be speaking today. What messages do you want to hear?
I want to hear some really strong messages from Ed Balls. He gets the state of the economy in our area, particularly somewhere like Milton Keynes. You know, we're built on lots of small businesses. We've got some big companies coming to the city. But what I hear on the doorstep in community meetings and from meeting business leaders is that they still haven't got the certainty in the economy. The banks still aren't lending to them, and for families, life's still tough with the squeeze going on. One of the big messages Ed Balls is going to be talking about today is that how we can leverage in some of the extra money from the sale of the 4G spectrum to actually get houses built again. And I know in Milton Keynes, Luton, and across the region, giving a break for first-time buyers to get the housing market going again is a huge issue for us.
Now, Ed Balls got heckled, of course, at the TUC conference for saying that Labour will have to make cuts if elected. Labour Party don't seem to be offering anything different from the Conservatives.
Well, I think halfway through this Parliament, people are beginning to question why they voted for David Cameron, and we know they did very strongly in our area. You know, in 2010, David Cameron went into that election promising change, but since then we've gone back into a double-dip recession. Borrowing's gone up, not down, and we've seen tax cuts for millionaires rather than ordinary working people in places like Milton Keynes. And I think the messages we're trying to do is to say that, look, we understand why we lost the last election. We lost touch with the grassroots. We took our eye off the ball. And we're slowly beginning to build that back. The opinion polls are looking good.
But what are you going to do that's different, Andrew? What are you offering that's different?
Everyone understands the economy's in a very tough place, so what we need to ensure is that the money we are using as government gives us real value for money in the way that people want. So already this week we've seen Ed Miliband give a very strong message to the banks. They need to clean up their act, otherwise the government will take action. We've said that unless the pension companies clean up their act, we will put a cap on how much charges they can do. And things like energy bills, now we're getting into the cold part of the year, we've said that it's morally wrong that the price of energy is going down for the big companies, but our energy bills are going up. So actually, small things that can help families and help businesses is where we are at the moment. The lessons of the last few years are there's no big fixes.
But Andrew, these are tiny, tiny things. Putting people over 75 on cheaper electricity, it's not going to kickstart the economy, is it? It's not really going to make a massive difference to many people.
I think all of this really helps. We're seeing with, rising living costs, the economy stagnating, people struggling with wages. The big issues I think the country's facing and our area is facing is kick-starting the economy. But you're
not telling me how you're going to do that, Andrew. This is what I'm confused at. You've not given me a suggestion on how you're actually going to do that. Yeah, if the banks don't behave well, then punish them. Fantastic. That makes common sense. But how are you going to help ordinary people?
Brilliant. Let me give you a couple of examples then. On the banks, I think it is important because one of the real issues that businesses are telling me about the banks is that they're not lending, particularly to small businesses.
Yep.
We've said with places at banks like RBS, which the government partly owns, we will tell them and instruct them they've got to stop speculating on the international markets and actually start lending to small businesses. We have a direct control of the government over that, and sadly, the government we've got at the moment doesn't want to give them those instructions. Those 100,000 houses, Ed Balls has said that without much money, the government can't spend a lot more, but if we are going to sell off the 4G spectrum, the money that brings in should be used to get the construction industry going again. If we get houses built, then that puts money in the pockets of the builders, it gives an opportunity for young people, and it kick-starts the economy again.
Andrew, and finally, on a social note, I've been to conferences a few years ago, and basically in the evenings, everyone got boozed up and copped off with each other. Is that still de rigueur?
Oh, I'm not sure we're quite copping off with each other, but I think we are having good discussion late into the evening. We are good friends, but I think we're all just having a good time.
There's a euphemism. We're having good discussion late into the evening. Andrew, thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks very much.
There we go. Andrew Pakes there. Enjoying good discussion late into the evening. Prospective Labour MP for Milton Keynes South. If you've ever been to these conferences, I went to one years and years ago. We got booted out of one in the end for whatever reason. We did. Was it the Lib Dem one that booted us out? I think maybe. But basically, the evening is just it's just orgy is perhaps too strong a word, but there's lots of fun things happening.
Across beds, hearts and bucks, this is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Plenty coming up in the next half hour, including It's Stop what is it, Stoptober? Is that the made-up word they've got to help you stop smoking? We'll be talking football and Jimmy Savile as well. But before all of that, a ban on clamping on private land has been brought into force today. It's one of a raft of new measures in the Protection of Freedoms Act. It also prohibits towing away from private land and brings in a new independent appeal service. Well, Patrick Troy is from the British Parking Association and joins me now. Morning, Patrick.
Good morning to you.
What will these changes mean to the average person?
Well, to the average person, as you say, clamping, towing away on private land is banned from today. There's a funny little sentence in the legislation which says, unless you have lawful authority.
Now, what does that mean?
Well, it's a bit confusing because it means that in certain circumstances, some organisations and some types of land can continue to clamp and remove. The organisations that can are the ones perhaps you'd expect, the police, the local authorities, DVLA. But it's the land which is more confusing. So land like owned by railway companies, ports and harbour authorities, some land and car parks at airports will be exempt from this. So there will be some clamping and removal still, but the vast majority of it will be banned from today.
So let me get this right. There's a block of flats near me. They've got a big yellow sign on the wall saying, if you park here and you don't belong here, you'll be clamped. They can't clamp me anymore.
They can't clamp you anymore, no. What they can do is they can ticket you.
Oh.
And yes, I'm afraid
so. All right, so it's not the open season on parking then? You can still get in trouble?
Of course, housing estates, car parks around housing estates are a good example of where this legislation might cause some problems because sometimes, if it's your car park space that's being abused, you want to take the most action you can. But what you'll be able to do from today is issue tickets. The legislation makes it a bit easier to issue tickets, but most importantly, it provides you with, for the first time on private land, an independent appeals service. It means that if you get a ticket and you write to the person who's issued it and they say you have to pay it, you can go on to another appeal service which is independent of anybody. It's free to the motorist. And you can get redress that way. So that's
because a lot of these tickets that are issued.
How many are issued?
No, I don't know, but a lot of them that are issued. That you don't. Am I right in thinking that actually they're not legally enforceable?
No, they are legally enforceable,
right.
And they were before today. But today they are given some legitimacy, if I put it that way, by the Protection of Freedoms Act. It places a responsibility for the first time on the keeper to identify the driver. That's new. But yes, they are legal. Obviously, operators who issue them will ultimately take you to court if you don't pay them. But that's why it's important to have the appeals service in place, so that before you talk about anything related to court hearings, you have your day with the appeals service.
I think a lot of people will be pleased to see these clampers go, because a lot of them are cowboys, aren't they, really? They take your car and you've got to pay 250 quid to get it back, and then plus a £50 fee, and then it's £300 a day. But will these clampers... they're going to still want to make money. Will they not just move into some sort of ticketing scam or something like that? Is that possible?
Our fear is that's exactly what will happen.
Right.
We think the government's missed a trick here to make the legislation apply to everybody in terms of compliance with an industry code of practice, which is what our members do. But it's only our members who subscribe to that. So whereas our members are providing much higher services from today, because we've introduced a tougher code of practice for them, including this independent appeal service, it means that some cowboy clampers will simply move into cowboy ticketing and won't be subject to these controls. So we think that's a mistake, but we'll keep an eye on that, and we'll be getting government to review it if it becomes a big problem for the motorist.
Patrick Troy from the British Parking Association, thank you very much. To be honest, and some of these firms are cowboys, and there are rules about having to have signs in the right place and stuff like that, but if you park where you're not meant to park, it's tough, isn't it? It's tough. You always hear stories. Well, I've done phone-ins before on people getting parking tickets and clamps and stuff. They go, well, I only... I pulled up for 2 minutes and just nipped into the shop to get some fags. Well, yeah, but you parked where you shouldn't park. It doesn't matter if you do it for 2 minutes or 2 hours. If you've parked where you shouldn't park, then you should be punished, shouldn't you? Listen, I've had parking tickets. My fault. I've put my hand up gone, I got caught there. Never mind. 08459 455 555. Surely no one can argue with. If you get caught parking where you're not meant to be parking, then you should be punished. That makes sense to me. Talking about Jimmy Savile, a new documentary comes out on Wednesday that claims that several women were abused as children by Jimmy Savile. A lot of you calling in about this. Peter's in Walmer Green. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning.
What's your take on this, sir?
Well, there are so many people, so many times after people die,
allegations come out against them. Now, I believe anyone who publishes those allegations should have a measure of proof, and they should be made to supply it to the estate of the dead person or the relatives of the dead person, because you never recover from something like that.
Yeah.
And really and truly, whoever publishes it should be legally liable if they haven't got evidence of proof.
Yeah.
Because you can diss anybody.
The interesting thing is,
I
Peter,
could call you a right-wing fascist every time to your face on air, and I would be...
You'd be close.
Well,
No,
it'd be wrong, wouldn't it?
Well, but the thing is, Peter, you can libel living people. You can't libel the dead. So you can say anything you want about the dead.
Well, that's right, and that's where the law's wrong.
Right, OK. But what... The thing is, there won't be any physical proof now, will there? These things happened, 40 years ago.
Then you should not be publishing it if you've got no physical proof, because that man's done a lot for charities anyway.
Yeah, but...
So you can't publish something you've got no proof on.
But Peter, does it depend on the person? Yes, he's done a lot for charity, but if these allegations are true, and I'm just hypothesising here, that doesn't. The fact he raised £40 million doesn't cancel what he may have done to young girls.
No, absolutely not. But you can't say things about someone, even if they're dead, that you're going to ruin, if you like, their character.
But what if they're true, Peter? And again,
what if they're true?
What if they are true? Let me finish. What if they are true, and he's ruined those women's lives? Then surely they have a right to express themselves, don't they?
Well, but you can't just say it about someone with no proof. It's like saying, oh, he murdered so-and-so and so-and-so when he was alive. It's crazy.
Peter, I tell you what, are you going to watch this documentary on Wednesday?
I am going to watch the documentary, yes.
Maybe we'll have a little chat Thursday morning.
Yeah.
Would that be okay?
But I hope there's a law introduced to covering liable to a dead person.
Well, Peter, that would probably be unworkable, but thank you. We'll speak to Peter on Thursday and see what he makes of the documentary. It's on Wednesday night on ITV1. And just to clarify, I don't think Jimmy Savile's been accused of murdering anybody, if you got confused by what Peter was saying there. Now, Luton Town Football Club could be buying their Kenilworth Road ground from the council. In his programme notes on Saturday, Managing Director Gary Sweet said discussions with the council were underway, but it could take years. Well, Mark Chapman is from Luton Town Supporters Club. Morning, Mark.
Good morning.
Would you welcome... I can tell by your jolly tone, I think, that you would welcome the club buying Kenilworth Road, wouldn't you?
Yes, I think it'll be progress in the right direction. Not necessary to stay at Kenilworth Road, but at least it then gives them an asset that they can then use basically to raise finance if they are to move.
How confident are you that this is the right thing to do? So you're saying that they should buy it, but not necessarily stay there?
Correct.
Just use it to move on to somewhere even bigger and better?
Correct. I think, for the long-term future of the club, if the club have aspirations of getting back to somewhere near at least championship football, then, realistically we need to be able to support crowds of 20,000 plus. Now, the existing facility, much as we love it, is antiquated. It is in need of massive needs of refurbishment, and I personally can't see that there is any way they could build it up to a capacity of 20,000 on the current site. However, I am aware that obviously, if they were to acquire the site as a sitting tenant and then sell it on, then that gives you a deposit towards effectively the same as selling your own home. You use the sale of the existing asset to basically fund the deposit on your new home. And that'll be exactly the same scenario.
They're getting their feet on the property ladder, aren't they?
Correct.
That's nice. Where would you like to see them go? Any ideas?
Well, as close to... This has been debated for numerous years. But let's face it, the first proposal to move Luton Town from Kenilworth Road was back in 1955.
Wow.
So, it's been around for a long period of time. It needs to be as close as possible to the existing facility and town centre, but it needs to have the access that the current site lacks. You probably couldn't put a stadium in a worse point in Luton for when it comes to access and parking, and that's to the detriment of not only the football club but the local, the locals in the area and everything else, because it is just, I think both are an inconvenience to each other, and that's not to the detriment of either party.
Mark, finally, I've never been to a football match before in my life. Justin Dealey, our reporter here, has promised to take me to a Luton Town match. What can I expect? I'm a little bit nervous.
You shouldn't be nervous. You should be looking forward to it.
I'm scared a
Great
bit.
No,
Isn't everyone fighting each other with knives and swearing and being racist? Isn't that what happens?
Yeah, I think we can blame the local press for those sort of analogies. Right. I haven't seen any problems at a football match for a long period of time.
What should I look out for if I come to Luton Town?
You'll be looking out for a great footballing experience.
Okay, well, Mark, if I come along, we may pop along and say hello to you.
No problem at all.
Cheers, mate. There we go. Mark Chapman from Luton Town Supporters Club. Yes, Justin Dealey is going to take me to... I've never been to a football match. He's going to take me to Luton Town. I'm terrified. I'm terrified. I'm not expecting there to be lots of violence or anything like that. Just, a big crowd of blokes shouting. It's not really my kind of scene. Speaking of sports... The BBC Sports Unsung Hero Award. Amid the stunning year of sport so far, the BBC has once again launched the BBC Sports Unsung Hero Award to celebrate people working behind the scenes to make sport accessible to all. Celebrating its 10th year, the Unsung Hero Award will be given to someone who goes the extra mile to help out in local sport. There's going to be so many people to choose from. This is going to be impossible, isn't it? Well, if you know someone of any age who coaches, administers, organises clubs, or does something behind the scenes with sport, you can nominate them now. You can go to bbc.co.uk/sports unsung hero. You can also obtain a nomination form by post by calling 08455 308 8000 08455 308 8000. Calls cost up to 5 pence per minute from most landlines. It might be a little bit more from a mobile. That's the BBC Sports Unsung Hero Award. Still taking your messages on your first CD that you bought. Paul on Twitter says, first CD I bought was Pet Shop Boys Disco. See, CD was made for bands like the Pet Shop Boys. Clean, crisp, little bit bland. 7:45, Monday the 1st of October. These are your headlines this morning on BBC Three Counties Radio. Europe's golfers produced a stunning final day comeback to win the Ryder Cup at the Medina Country Club. A month before elections to decide the new police commissioners for Beds, Herts and Bucks, research commissioned by the BBC Three Counties Radio has found that just 1 in 6 of us know anything about it. In sport, in rugby's premiership, Saracens won 18-16 at previously unbeaten Harlequins, with Owen Farrell kicking 6 penalties. Your weather across Beds, Herts and Bucks. It's a cloudy morning with outbreaks of rain, gradually becoming drier by the afternoon. Top temperature is 17 degrees. And coming up, it's Stoptober. Yeah, it's time to quit smoking, apparently. Are you going to be encouraged by this? Or are you going to carry on puffing? Find out more in the next 15 minutes.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Genuinely very excited about Beatles Day. I love the Beatles. But I think it would be nice if on this show as well, if we had very tenuous links to the Beatles. We've got some amazing stories coming up, people who saw them in concert, people who met them, people who were sat in the front row, people who did all these things. But if you've got a really tenuous link... I've got a tenuous link. Ringo Starr once swore at my dad. There we go. If you can get anything even more tenuous than that... He said he did. It's one of my proudest moments. He told him to go away, in no uncertain terms. If you've got a tenuous link to the Beatles... Doesn't necessarily have to involve swearing. 3cr at bbc.co.uk, and maybe we'll do that on Friday. We'll throw out some tenuous ones as well as the excellent ones we've also got as well. Now, talking about Jimmy Savile, more disturbing claims are being made about Jimmy Savile. In a documentary being broadcast this week, several women described Savile's sexual abuse of young girls. The Childline founder, Esther Ranson, says she believes the evidence.
I had absolutely decided that I would not make up my mind because he's not here to defend himself. But I must say, what these women say is so matter of fact. They corroborate each other. The style of the abuse and the attack on them was absolutely consistent one with each other. I'm afraid the jury isn't out anymore.
Well, Kevin Keane is our reporter. Good morning, Kevin.
Morning.
Kevin, tell us what's being alleged.
Well, the claims are that Sir Jimmy Savile, who of course died last year at the age of 84, had sexually assaulted and in one case raped underage girls during the 1970s. Now, this ITV programme contains a series of interviews from women who say that they were his victims. A woman called Fiona says she was 14 at the time she was assaulted. in the presenter's Rolls-Royce car. She says she was one of a group of girls from her school who'd been invited into the vehicle by Sir Jimmy, but she said that she'd been asked to stay with him in the car at the end of the ride when all of the other girls left, and that, she said, was when the assault took place. Another unnamed woman said that she met Sir Jimmy at the BBC as early as 1969 when she was 15, and she claims to have been indecently assaulted probably a dozen times, but said that she'd been too frightened to speak about the incidents when Sir Jimmy was alive.
Obviously, Jimmy Savile died last year. What have his family been saying?
Well, they've been defending him and are quite angry about these claims, coming at a time, as you say, when Sir Jimmy's not here and not able to defend himself. His nephew, Roger Foster, says that the claims could be damaging, in particular to the many charities which he raised money for. He was obviously very well known for the fundraising work that he did, and he said that he was very sad and disgusted about the claims. And his niece, Amanda McKenna, says that the documentary makers should be ashamed of themselves for cashing in on a man who's dead and can't defend himself. So lots of anger from Sir Jimmy's family.
Some of the assaults are alleged to have happened on BBC property.
Yeah, that's right, and the programme features an interview with a former BBC employee, a woman called Sue Thompson, who said that she walked in on Sir Jimmy with a young teenager in a dressing room in Leeds in 1978. That was when he was presenting a regional programme there. The BBC, in response, has issued a statement saying that it's conducted extensive searches of its files to establish whether there's any record of misconduct or even allegations of misconduct against Sir Jimmy Savile during the time that he spent with the BBC. It says no such evidence has been found, and adds that in the absence of evidence of any kind that corroborates these allegations, it's simply not possible for the corporation to take any further action.
This isn't the first time that claims have been made, is it?
No, that's right. A complaint was made to Surrey Police in 2007, a single complaint, and there was an investigation carried out, but no further action taken by the force. And the BBC's Newsnight programme had been investigating allegations, but again, no item or story was ever broadcast. The BBC, though, saying that that was purely because the story that they'd been pursuing couldn't be substantiated.
Kevin King, thank you very much. And you've been getting in touch on Facebook about this. If you go to facebook.com/BBC3CR, you can leave your comments there. Trevor has written, why did they wait until he was dead? You can make any story up now and they would not be able to answer back. I could be his secret love child. I'm not, he hastens to add, but who is to say otherwise? If they'd been abused, there'd been plenty of time to pursue this before his death. And I don't know one way or the other whether this is true or not, but I guess one of the things about abuse victims is the fear that is inherent, because, you know, there are threats, there is fear. I don't know. 08459 455 555. Now, if you smoke, you are being encouraged to stop and join the first ever national mass quit attempt launched by the Department of Health. The campaign, called Stoptober, offers smokers a support package to quit within a month. Councillor Aslam Khan is the tobacco-free champion for Luton Borough Council. He joins me in the studio now. Good morning.
Good morning.
You've dressed up very smart, sir. I feel a little bit scruffy.
Well, I do have to go to work, and
it's not just for me. Thank you very much. Why is this campaign different to other ones that have happened?
Well, this campaign is backed up by Department of Health, Cancer Research and UK Foundation, Heart Foundation, and we are aiming to support around 840,000 smokers in the UK. We do recognise that giving up smoking can be difficult, and so this is really designed to support those smokers who want to quit. And the evidence suggests that if you stop smoking for 28 days, you're 5 times more likely to stop. So it's a supported counter campaign where you have celebrities, you have businesses, you have a lot of organizations who are supporting this campaign. So we want to encourage everyone to stop smoking.
But you said giving up smoking is hard work. It's one of the hardest things you can do because it is an addiction. What support are you giving people to help with this?
Well, there's various support available. You have step-by-step. It's a pack that you get for 28 days. You also have motivational texts. You have celebrities who are your mentors, who talk you through sharing their experiences in terms and encouraging you to stop.
That's not on a one-to-one. You're not going to get, like, Russell Grant come round and tell you how to... This is the first celebrity I could think of. What does that say about me? What, these are like videos and things?
Videos, absolutely.
Right, okay.
Yeah, you have motivational texts, for example. You have Facebook that you can access. There's and we're using social media, of course. So, you can tap into a lot of resources there which are available, which you want there before this campaign.
If I was a smoker, and I was on day 3, though, of not smoking, and I got a text saying, hey, hope it's going well, don't light up, I would be furious. I'd be right, I'm going to have a cigarette now, just to spite you. There's a lot of that. It's going to be a tough thing for people to do.
It's not easy. It's not easy. We do recognise that. That's why we have placed a lot of resources where you can either phone in, talk to people who have given up, and they can share their experiences. They can talk about the difficulties and challenges they've had in terms of giving up. So it's really talking you through and having that sort of one-to-one really helps and encourages you and motivates you.
Aslam, do you smoke?
I did used to smoke, and I did give up. Absolutely.
How long ago did you give up?
This is almost 7 years ago.
Oh, good for you. How did you do it? What technique did you use?
I did use nicotine replacement therapies.
Right.
I also had friends who had given up, so
that helps.
And that helps.
Yeah.
So you need to surround yourself people who either have given up or don't smoke, because if you remain in that environment, it then becomes more challenging.
You're right. I think the support from friends and people around you is an excellent thing, and obviously you feel much better. You look like a very healthy man as a result.
Sure.
So good for you.
That's right. I mean, the thing is that we need to recognise the harmful effects of smoking. It's 90% of lung cancer is associated with smoking. It's a cause of health and a leading cause of health inequalities. You have it's a leading cause of miscarriages, infant mortality, mouth cancer. So if you look at your personal health and how you improve within 2 weeks, you'll start seeing these improvements. You will see your skin start getting better.
But Councillor, I've noticed in Luton that all of the bins have got ashtrays on the top.
Sure.
That's kind of encouraging people to smoke, isn't it? Ban it everywhere.
Well,
you can do this. You have the power. Make Luton a smoke-free town.
Well, smoke-free Luton is our top priority, and we are aiming to do that through education, educating people and making people aware of harmful effects. And at the same time, what we are trying to do is, since 1997, legislation has come in, so we're trying to make sure that virtual places and also commercial drivers we are compliant, and public places we're trying to reduce the facilities, like you explained, which may encourage smokers.
Very quickly, because I'm not a smoker, and I hate to get rid of it, I think. But there will be people puffing away in their vans and in their cars this morning, furious that the council is getting involved in basically trying to quash people's freedoms. What would you say to those people?
All I would say is that look at the well-established facts. I was speaking to one of the lead cardiologists, and who said since the ban, there has been 35% reduction in smoke-related deaths. 200 people die in Luton every year.
Wow.
And so you need to think about your children, you need to think about your family. And smokers under the age of 18 are 5 times more likely to take up smoking if you smoke in your homes, in your cars. So we want to make sure that, we want to protect individuals as well as the family.
Councillor, listen, we have to move on. Councillor Aslam Khan from Luton Borough Council, thank you very much. We'll see how the campaign goes. Are you going to stop for October? Because I know on National No Smoking Day, a lot of people smoke more cigarettes as kind of a two-fingered salute. Are you going to stop? Are you going to attempt to stop during October? 08459 455 555. Your tenuous Beatles links are coming in already. This is a great one from @Balcony Shirts. My friend Roy once lied to everyone at school that he owned George Harrison's corduroy cap. Fantastic. Here comes the news now with Catherine Boyle. this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. We've got another hour of this nonsense yet. I can only apologise. No, not apologise. You're lucky to be having this gold that we're throwing at you. Coming up in the next hour, Europe's golfers have staged one of the greatest comebacks in sporting history to retain the Ryder Cup. There's a ban on clamping on private land that's been brought into force today. How much sympathy do you have for people who flout the parking rules? And the CD celebrates its 30th birthday today. Later on in the show, I'll be asking our political reporter, Paul Scoins, what was the first CD that he ever bought.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
We'll be talking about more stuff with him as well. I'm not going to get him in for that. We'll be talking political stuff as well, but I will ask him what is the first CD that he ever bought. Now, it's going to go down in history as one of the greatest sporting comebacks ever. Yesterday in golf, Europe won the Ryder Cup on American soil after starting the final day 10-6 down. The Americans were leading 10-6 going into the 12 singles matches, with Europe winning 8, including victories for Woburn's Ian Poulter and High Wycombe's Luke Donald. This was the crucial moment the team drew level to retain the trophy.
It's come down to this. 5 feet. Martin Keimer on the 18th green at Medina sends it on its way. And in! And in! And the cup is safely in European hands. And he leaps into the arms of his captain. And he's lifted aloft. Martin Keimer's the hero. And Europe have retained the cup.
Well, there we go. Exciting stuff indeed. Now, Gordon Brand Jr. played in the Ryder Cup in the 1980s. Good morning, Gordon.
Morning.
Is that the most exciting Ryder Cup you've ever seen?
Certainly, if you're watching it, it certainly was. It was unbelievable, inspirational win.
The pressure must have been amazing. How, as a golfer who's played in the Ryder Cup, how do you cope with that kind of pressure?
Oh, that's a tough question, that is, because you absolutely dread that the match is going to come down to you, that you could be the one that failed to bring the trophy back. But to be honest, the 12 of the Europeans pitched up on Sunday, where they were against some unbelievable Americans the first 2 days.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think it got to the Americans. When we won those first 5 games, I think it got to the Americans.
Was that the turning point, do you think, at the weekend?
I think the turning point was Poulter scraping a point out on Saturday afternoon, and they knew they had to win the first few games, and they did that, and then it was almost all level, and it was just a bun fight from then on, and really we coped with the pressure far better than the Americans.
Had you given up on them, Gordon? Did you think, do you know what, they're not going to do this, I might as well go out and enjoy the rest of the weekend out and about? Or did you always believe they could do it?
I don't think you give up on them, but I think it was almost a bridge too far, but it will go down as one of the best comebacks ever in any form of golf.
Final question, Gordon. I'm going to put you on the spot, and I want an answer. Don't fudge this. Can you pick the player that was the most important from Europe, please?
Ian Poulter. It's a no-brainer. Ian Poulter absolutely loves the Ryder Cup. He plays above his station every time he gets that Ryder Cup jersey on, and he is inspirational. He will go down as inspirational as Seve Ballesteros.
OK, excellent stuff, Gordon. Thank you very much. Gordon Brown Jr., who has played in the Ryder Cup. A sport I'm struggling to understand the beauty of. I'm joined now by Paul Scoins, our political reporter. Are you a fan of the golf?
I can't do golf. Is that what? No, the bats and everything.
Yeah, I think that's the technical term. I'd love to have a go. I like the mini golf. The mini golf, I think, is awesome fun for the whole family. But the real golf,
I've played on a par 3 before. Apparently, that's a pitch and putt. I believe. Yeah.
Okay,
I was terrible.
Now, next month you have the chance to vote to decide who runs your local police force, dear listener. They'll be called Police and Crime Commissioners, and you probably haven't heard of them. Well, I don't blame you, because not many people have. Our political reporter, Paul Scoins, is here, as you've heard. He's not very good at golf. Explain what these commissioners will be able to do, Paul.
Well, Ian, they're very controversial to start with, because not everyone agrees with them. They'll have a great deal of influence over our policy for the police, and ultimately they'll be able to appoint and to sack the Chief Constable, and they'll have some influence over setting the budget as well. Now, what they won't be able to do is set the operational agenda. They won't be able to go and say, arrest him, but they will be able to consult with victims, and what they're hoped to be able to do is bring more of the public into policing to sort of get a greater understanding of the police force and hold them to account a bit more. But critics are saying that's not just going to happen. Sarah Thornton, there's a clip. Sarah Thornton, who is the Chief Constable of Thames Valley Police, she explained to me about what she saw as their duties.
The Police and Crime Commissioner has three main responsibilities. The first one is about setting the plan and clearly establishing the priorities, and I will need to understand what they are so we can make sure that the force follows them. The second is that they decide on the budget and the precept, which is the local tax. And clearly, again, there will be a very, I'm sure, lively conversation with them about that. And lastly, they're responsible for hiring and, if necessary, firing the Chief Constable. And hopefully there won't be any lively conversations about that.
Well, as you know, Paul, we've commissioned a study, and hardly anybody has heard of this.
Yeah, that's right. There's a really low understanding of what these guys are going to do, and our figures for Beds, Herts and Bucks from the University of Bedford show that only about 16% of people actually know that the elections are happening, and fewer still know what those commissioners will do in real terms, and only a third of people nationally think they're a good idea. Now, last week, the Electoral Reform Society, who sort of oversee elections from a sort of independent perspective, they said that the election was in danger of turning into a farce because there was a very real danger of a very low turnout. I've heard as low as 20%. Some authority people, we're just going to hear from one in a second, said that was optimistic. Now, the votes are taking place on the 15th of November. You'll start seeing adverts on television about this later. Peter Conniff, who's the chair of the Beds Police Authority, which this role is effectively taking over, says he's got some real concerns about the timing of the election.
It seems strange to me that they chose a day to have this election when there are no other elections on. Now, had this happened next May when there are local elections, a lot of people would find their way into the polling booth because they're going there anyway to vote for their local councils. Oh, and by the way, whilst I'm here, I might as well vote on this other issue about Police and Crime Commissioner. But to expect people to turn out on a cold November day or night, particularly if there's a good football match on television, to vote for something they don't understand, I am very fearful.
Exactly what I said earlier on. All the elections should be on the same day. Then you just go in, spend a couple of minutes, and you do it all. What do the police think about this whole setup?
Well, they're also worried about that. They're worried about political influence. One chief constable has actually resigned in protest over this, Chief Constable of Gloucester. There are concerns also that many of the independent candidates who will be standing, they'll be at a disadvantage because the authorities are currently a pretty good mix of councillors and independents, and they say that's important to how the police are perceived, but they're so expensive to stand. It's £5,000 just to enter.
Excuse me?
Yeah, £5,000 just to enter, and then you have to get 5% of the vote just to get that money back. So independents who don't have the foot soldiers that politicians do, maybe, seem to be at quite a disadvantage, and we've got a couple standing in our area who've said the same to me already. Now, Sarah Thornton again, who's the Chief Constable of Thames Valley Police, she says that she's very concerned about a low turnout from a police point of view.
A lot of us have been concerned about low turnout. This is a Police and Crime Commissioner. It's not just about the police force, it's about the and crime bit as well, which is all about the community safety partnerships, the local authorities, and I think if somebody hasn't got a strong mandate, it makes that sort of work a lot harder. As a professional police officer, in a way, it's quite disappointing if only a few people turn out to vote, because I think policing is really important.
I don't think it's happened here, but nationally, lots of the candidates have had to drop out because they had a conviction in 1962 or something, which is fascinating, including the Falklands hero guy.
Simon Weston.
Simon Weston, he had to drop because he did something when he was 15 or something, so he had to drop out.
There was talk of changing that slightly. The rule is that if you've been convicted of something which carries a custodial sentence, then you can't stand. Now, there's a couple of people standing in Bedfordshire, actually, or a couple. There's a person standing in Bedfordshire who has had a conviction of a public order offence, but because it wasn't a custodial sentence, or because there wasn't a custodial sentence available,
they can still stand. That's incredible, right? Who is standing around here? Who have we got?
Yeah, politicians, independents. You've got sort of most of the main parties, except the Lib Dems. Lib Dems slightly different. They don't really support it, so they're not giving their candidates money to stand. Okay. So if you're a Lib Dem, you want to stand, you've got to pay for it yourself. Right. As I mentioned, it's a huge amount of money. In Hertfordshire, so far, we can only find two candidates, so it's a bit of a two-horse race, although UKIP could come in at the late moment, and there is only, at the moment, one or two independents around our area, one in Bedfordshire and possibly three in Hertfordshire, but we don't know.
Colin in Luton is on the line. Good morning, Colin.
Dunsmore, actually.
Oh, I do apologise. Are you aware of what's going on with this and these police commissioners? Are you worried about them, excited about them?
I'm slightly worried about them.
Why is that, Colin?
For one thing, the fact that they're linked to political parties.
Yep.
I've recently had an information leaflet and questionnaire sent from one of the candidates in my area.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, who these people are.
And that letter...
Nobody really knows what sort of... people are standing.
Colin, this letter that's been sent to you, it's for a candidate and it's also linked to a political party, is it?
Yes.
There we go. Well, that does seem a little bit...
Well, it's interesting he's even had that, because most people haven't even had that.
Right.
So, I mean, they are really on the back foot with this, I think. And I think in the next month you'll see more about this. I think we're actually pretty early in this, because I think you'll start seeing the adverts on the 22nd of October. So I think, what the police officer and the authority member there has said about concern about people just not knowing about it is backed up by our own figures, and it's backed up by the picture naturally, I'm afraid, Ian.
Paul, very quickly, what's the first CD you ever bought?
I was thinking about this earlier on. Yeah. I think it was Mid-Yaw, If I Was. I'm kind of proud about that.
That's not bad.
It's not a bad CD.
It's not brilliant, it's not bad.
It's not as good as my first 7-inch, which was Paul McCartney and the Frog Chorus.
Thanks very much, Paul Scoins there. Now, don't forget, for the next 3 weeks, you can hear special programmes on Monday at 6pm about these police and crime commissioners, where Roberta will be putting the candidates and their policies under the spotlight. So make sure you listen on Mondays at 6pm. This is 8:16 on Monday the 1st of October. These are your headlines this morning on BBC Three Counties Radio. Europe has beaten their American rivals by just 1 point to hold on to the Ryder Cup. Research commissioned by BBC Three Counties Radio suggests 5 out of 6 people have no idea about the police commissioner's election set to take place next month. In sport, as England's cricketers prepare to play a vital match against host Sri Lanka in the World 2020 today, it appears Kevin Peterson is about to be welcomed back into the England fold. And coming up, it's the 30th birthday of the compact disc. What was the first CD you bought? I'll be speaking to music journalist Jonathan Wingate.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Always lovely to see an old friend, and I consider you an old friend.
Thank you.
I consider you old, anyway.
Yes.
It's Bill Buckley filling in for Jonathan Vernon-Smith. How are you this morning, Bill?
I'm very well. I'm excited. I'm full of trepidation.
They are big shoes to fill,
they are.
Jonathan's, and I did it for a week, and I managed to escape unscathed. So
right.
I wish you luck. His listeners are suspicious but friendly, so you'll be all right. I have a question before you tell us what's happening.
Yeah.
30 years of the compact disc today. What was the first CD you ever bought? Because we're kind of older people. To kids, it's like, well, I don't know.
It's nice for you to put us in the same age group. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. But I remember I bought a CD before we even had a CD player, just because I wanted to have one and see it and hold it. Mine was a Beach Boys CD. So was there one where you went from vinyl to CD?
Yeah, I replaced about my favourite dozen albums with CDs when I first got my CD machine.
Yep.
And I think the first possibly one was The Winner in You, Patti LaBelle.
There you go, that's a nice one. Yeah, so good for you. That's a lovely record.
Or it could have been whatever Paul Simon... What was the... Oh, Graceland. It could have been Graceland, or it could have been No Parley, Paul Young, possibly.
Stop trying to show off and sound cool with your cool record collection.
I'm not sure they're particularly cool, apart from Patti LaBelle.
Yes, what's coming up on the show this morning?
Well, as you've been reporting in Breakfast, a local MP is promoting the benefits of the British pub today. Richard Fuller, Conservative member for Bedford and Kempston, says they're an important part of any community and worth fighting for, but it's a losing battle that's being fought, isn't it? Because 12 pubs close every week across the country. So we thought we'd ask today, has the pub had its day? I mean, frankly, if we cared, we'd be using them and they wouldn't be closing. It's a bit like saying quill pens are lovely things and we must keep quill pen factories open, but if nobody uses a quill pen, it's not going to happen.
When was the last time you went to a pub?
When was the last time I went to a pub?
You have to ponder it, you see, that says it.
Yeah, it was about a week ago, and it was up in Birmingham when I had a friend over, because there's a pub in Birmingham that used to be like the trading hall for one of the big banks. Yeah. It has incredible high ceilings, and it's a tourist attraction in itself.
Yeah.
And that's the key. I think you've got to find some kind of USP. The average boozer will no longer do.
On at 9 o'clock, 08459 455 555. Bill Buckley filling in for Jonathan Vernon-Smith. Always a cracking listen, Bill.
Thank you.
I shall speak to you later on.
We'll see.
Ta-ta. It would be fantastic. Definitely give him a call. And be as kind to Bill as you were when I filled in for Jonathan. No, actually, be a little bit kinder, please, because some of you. 08459 455 555 is the phone number if you want to give Bill a call at 9. It's also the number to call me now for the next 40 minutes. Now, don't forget that the Police and Crime Commissioner debate starts today, Monday the 1st of October, because next month you'll have the chance to vote to decide who runs your local police force. Well, starting this Monday on BBC Three Counties Radio, we'll be hearing from all of the people who've said they're standing. Roberto Perrone will hear all of the policies, and you can send your questions in too. Starts this Monday from 6 with Roberto Perrone on BBC Three Counties Radio. Now, it's the big 3-0 for the Humble CD today. The first CD players were launched in Japan on this day in 1982. And to celebrate, we are asking, what was the first CD that you ever bought? Jonathan Wingate is a music journalist. Good morning, Jonathan. Nice to talk to you.
Hi, Ian.
How big a deal is this?
It's a big deal. I'm looking at a house full of about 10,000 CDs.
Is that your house?
Yeah.
You've got 10,000?
Something sad like that.
Oh, it puts my 860 to shame.
Oh, you counted?
Yeah.
Did no one ever tell you size wasn't everything, Ian?
Have you got yours in alphabetical order?
That's a long story. Yes, I did have until I split with a girlfriend, and then it all went into boxes.
Oh, no. Well, listen, we moved, and mine were in boxes, and then I had the joyous weekend of my wife going away with the kids. I spent all weekend putting them in alphabetical order, but then get this, Jonathan, then for the bands, in alphabetical order, I put their albums in chronological order.
Sorry, why do you think that's weird?
Oh, man, we've got to hang out, Jonathan. We're going to be really good friends.
Ian, you and I should have been married in a former life. You know what's interesting about this conversation, though?
Yes.
There's a correlation between this and people's relationship with music.
Yeah.
In terms of people's romantic relationship with music still holds true. Human beings still want an actual a physical thing to hold, to interact with, and to love.
Well,
and
Jonathan,
that's why
I do.
Yeah.
I do, and you do, because we're of a certain age, but I'm guessing that the kids don't. It's all these MP3s and
That's very
iPods.
true, but in America, 61% of sales last year were CDs.
Were they really?
It's not a dead format. Generally, people, what's disappeared is £50 CD man, and that's you and I who used to go into record shops and spend £50, £100 replacing our record collection, which was the very clever trick of the CD manufacturers, the major labels, and it ultimately, the band Pop Will Eat Itself. It was very prophetic, that band name, because Pop ate itself in the end. We all got convinced to buy our record collection twice because CDs were the future, and CDs didn't turn out to be the future, and they dissipated our relationship with music. So ultimately, that's why people still talk about this romantic thrill of putting an old record on. One day, people will talk about the romantic thrill of interacting with a compact disc, as opposed to a piece of software on their computer. Isn't it fascinating?
It will be people getting excited about pressing the button. I'm doing it now.
Yeah.
And the little drawer coming out.
Yeah.
And then lowering it in. You can't smell CDs, though. You can smell vinyl.
No, it's the same with books and download books, isn't it? You can actually smell the colour of the vinyl. You can smell a record, can't you?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Quite literally. And you can smell the sound of a record. And ultimately, that's what CDs did. They made sounds very clear and pristine when most people didn't listen to music in a vacuum on records. Their records were scratchy and probably jumping around and warped, being kept by the radiator. CDs solved that problem because they gave you a pristine sound. The trouble was, in most of it, when things became too digitized, we lost the vibe of the music. And ultimately, what people listening to this show love about music is the vibe that it gives them, the zone it takes them into. And that's why we love rock and roll as a good example, because that's not necessarily about perfect sound
it's
quality.
Not about the technicals. It's about there is a certain bagginess to the sound of a record that you don't get on a CD, and you certainly don't get on an MP3 because that's all clipped.
And that's the problem. The sound is so clipped that people aren't experiencing music how it was meant to be experienced. So if you think about, I don't know what's an audiophile experience, Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, the way that was meant to be heard was not how people are listening to it now on crummy MP3 players. And another point is the romantic link we have with artwork, which you still have with CDs. Again, got dissipated when things got reduced from 12 inches of album to sort of 6.5 of CDs. What will happen to all the artwork that we so love? You and I would have grown up looking at record cover credits because we're sad.
No, well, exactly. You get a Yes double album or a triple album, and you're staring at that for hours. You talk about the smell of records, Jonathan. I have a Monkees record from 1969 that is sealed. It's never been opened. And one day, when everything has ended, I'm going to cut that record open. I'm going to take a big, deep breath of 1969 and see what it smelled like.
Is that the Head album?
It's not the Head album. That was 1968, technically.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
I do apologise.
Ian.
Jonathan, listen, I've got to ask you, what was the first CD you ever bought?
That's a really good question. Can I reinvent history and say something cool?
No, you can't. No, not at all. No.
Okay.
You have to be honest.
Okay, I think it was Chirpy Chirpy Cheep Cheep. No, it wasn't. I think it was the Beatles. I think it was Revolver by the Beatles.
Oh, come on! That's the coolest album of all time.
I know, but I'm the coolest music journalist of all time.
Well, it turns out, Jonathan. I love our chats.
By the way, I am joking. I am much more on the old Chirpy Chirpy Cheep Cheep. I'm not that cool.
Jonathan, I love our chats. We'll have to get you in one morning.
Love to be there. Ian.
Cheers, mate. Take care. Bye bye.
Cheers.
Seriously, I'm going to phone my wife up. It's over. Me and him, Jonathan and I. We're getting it on. We'll do Mary after the news. I think Mary's called in. We'll speak to her after the news because we're running a little bit late because I was enjoying that chat so much. I am asking, and I think this has to be a feature on Friday, your tenuous Beatles connections, because it's Beatles Day and we're going to be celebrating the magic of the Beatles. But I'd love your tenuous Beatles connections. And someone has, Paul Murray has tweeted in, my tenuous Beatles connection, my brother had the Sgt. Pepper's album. Fantastic. We'll have more of those on Friday, I think.
The BBC in beds, hearts and bucks. This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Plenty to go in the last half hour of the show before Bill Buckley fills in for Jonathan Vernon Smith, including a ban on clamping on private land has been brought into force today. Our reporter Justin Dealey will be speaking to a Leagrave man whose car was clamped outside his own garage. And the government's scheme to get everyone into a workplace pension is starting to roll out. We'll find out exactly what that means for you. A couple of quick texts before we speak to Justin. The first CD... Oh, isn't that interesting, Vic? First CD was War of the Worlds. I've got an LP cassette and CD. We spoke to Jeff Wayne the other week. He was absolutely delightful, and we're going to see if we can get him in one morning. And Jimmy Savile, a text on the recent allegations that were made over the weekend and will be further investigated on an ITV1 documentary on Wednesday, claiming that he abused some young girls. Bob in Bedford is texting in. I think it's disgusting and shameful for the ITV to produce a programme on Jimmy with such a damning accusation without proof and Jimmy not being here to defend himself. Innocent until proven guilty. But how can this be proven? It'll be very interesting to know how much money is made by the individuals that have come forward. They shouldn't be allowed for them to make money off the back of what can't be proved. Well, I don't think... I'm sure I read this. I don't think they've been paid for the interviews in the TV programme. So, Bob, I don't know if that changes your opinion on the story at all. Now, a ban on clamping on private land has been brought into force today. It's one of a raft of new measures in the Protection of Freedoms Act. It also prohibits towing away from private land and brings in a new independent appeals service. Well, Tony Biggs from Leagrave was on the JVS show because his car kept getting clamped outside his own garage. Our reporter, Justin Dealey, is at his house. Now, Justin, this sounds crazy.
It was, I have to say, and I came to this story about 18 months ago.
Yeah.
I've reported on many stories at BBC Three Counties Radio. This was quite simply one of the most bizarre that I've ever seen. Just to kind of sum this up for you, I'm in Leagrave, it's on Morgan Close. I'm with Tony this morning. Now, outside Tony's house, you've got a shared driveway access, and there you've got 3 garages. So Tony parked outside his garage, and his car was clamped and then towed away. And you're probably thinking, Ian, well, how on earth does this work? How can you be clamped for parking outside your own house?
I'm scratching my head at this. This is ridiculous.
It's very strange. You see, what happened was Tony's next-door neighbour decided to put up some signs outside her property saying this is private land and you will be clamped. Well, it's shared access. So what happened then, there were some white lines which were painted on the shared access. Tony parked outside his garage, his car was clamped and then towed away. So the issue is over who actually owns that land. Incredible, isn't it?
That's amazing. So the woman owned a garage, and she put a sign up saying, "You can't park anywhere near here. I own all of this."
Yes, exactly.
Wow. Okay.
It's just incredible, isn't it?
Yep.
So, thankfully for Tony's with me right now. Thankfully, Tony, she has moved out, but you were clamped, you were towed. How much money did this cost you in the end?
In total, about £1,000.
£1,000?
It's clamping and retrieving the vehicle after being towed away to Uxbridge.
And you went to the council, and they basically turned you away, didn't they?
Yeah, because it's private property, they say they can't get involved with it. Neither can the police.
I mean, how did that make you feel? Because I've tried to explain it to Iain there. I'm sure our listeners are scratching their heads as well. You're getting fined £1,000 to park outside your own house, which is shared access. How did that make you feel?
We can't really put it into words. Anger is just not sufficient to say. But it's annoying, very annoying. You go to bed overnight, you look out first thing of the morning to see if the vehicle is still there or not. So you lived on 10 Oaks, basically.
I mean, thankfully for your sake, she has moved out. But what's your thoughts on the law? The law, of course, is changing today, so no clamping on private property. However, of course, you can still have ticketing. So do you think it will make any difference at all, this change in the law?
I don't think so, really, because there are a lot of clamping companies, they don't want to lose out their revenue. So they're going to find other means by which they can actually still retrieve and make money out of the business they're in.
Yeah, I presume it was the worst period of your life, wasn't it, what happened here?
Well, it is. It's been ongoing for the last 5-6 years, and it's just devastating, really and truly devastating.
Thankfully, though, it's all in the past now. Tony, thank you very much indeed for your time. There you go. That's Tony Biggs joining us live from his home here in Leagrave. I mean, Iain, it is just incredible to think that can happen. But as Tony was saying there, the law, of course, is changing. I think earlier on we all thought, great, the law's changing, but, of course, you can still receive a ticket. So will it make any difference? I don't know. Only time will tell.
These cowboys will just go and start handing out tickets. The thing is, Justin, now I have great sympathy for Tony because he's done nothing wrong. He's parking outside his garage.
Yeah.
But I do think if you park somewhere where you're not meant to park and you get a ticket or you get a clamp, it's tough.
No.
Isn't it? It's tough luck. You shouldn't have done it.
Well, I heard you earlier on say about this, and I have to say, I do agree. I've been clamped before, I've had various tickets before, and it's cost me a lot of money. But if I've parked on double yellow lines and I've nipped out to get a newspaper, well, you know, what do you expect if you come out and get a clamp? But I think you'll agree with this story. I think you'll have every sympathy for Tony.
Completely.
I don't think every story, though, involves your car being clamped on your own land. They, of course, I'm sure, are few and far between.
We should do a Neighbours from Hell show because they're always fascinating stories and it just sounds like a nightmare. Justin, before I let you go, it's the 30th birthday of the compact disc.
Oh, yes.
Today. What was the first CD you ever bought?
Well, the first CD I was given was Breathe, and they had a big hit which is ideal for today. Monday Morning Blues, 1980s group. But the first compilation CD I ever bought, and you mentioned this earlier on, it was a big thing because I'd bought vinyl for years, I've been out on discos, so buying a CD I felt a bit strange. It was quite a special occasion. So I bought this CD player, and I bought a compilation CD for $9.99 called Get On This.
Get On This!
Which featured lots of acts, including Cold Cut. We've all heard of Coldplay, but Cold Cut, Technotronic, and Snap. It was absolutely dreadful.
Technotronic.
Yes.
Well, Justin, Get On This. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There we go. Justin Dillian is his first ever record. Now, we were talking about this changes in the police system that mean you're going to be able to vote for who's in charge of your local police. Turns out hardly any of you know about this. Mary's in Hemel. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, Iain. As far as I'm concerned, this whole thing is corrupt.
Why's that?
Because there are political parties have representatives. John Prescott's representing Labour. The police should be completely non-political. Because there's going to be prejudice come out, isn't there?
But surely, if anyone is in charge, and by the way, we're not suggesting for a second that John Prescott is corrupt, but if anybody's in charge, they're just going to want the best for the community, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, like all our MPs want the best for the community. No, I'm afraid it's a case of back-scratching, I'm sorry. It should not have politicians running the police. They should be outside of it.
Well, who should be running the police?
Well, I would have thought, funnily enough, Simon Weston and people like that have been kicked out for the most ridiculous little reasons. I mean...
But with the greatest of respect, Simon Weston, of course, is a Falklands hero, is a legend, but why would he be any better at being in charge of a police force than John Prescott?
Because because he's ex-military, that's why, and he knows about discipline and things like this. But not only Simon Weston, people who really have worked their way up through the ranks and become like top policemen, not ones that have walked into the job with a graduation degree. People who have worked their way up, who know the system inside and out, and who are non-political.
Mary, thank you very much for that. I'll wait 459 455 555. Now, the Emergency Medical Centre at Wickham Hospital in Buckinghamshire closes today. I know this hospital very well. In its place will be a new minor injuries and illness unit. But there are fears local people needing treatment will have to travel miles, which is both costly and inconvenient. One family who suffered the consequences of a hospital closing is the Debonaires. When Royston Hospital shut down, Graham's dad was initially sent to Addenbrooke's in Cambridgeshire. He then had to be transferred to his local one in Hertfordshire, which happens to be in Welwyn Garden City. But it adds an extra hour onto his journey, as we found out earlier on in the show, if you were listening. Well, aside from having no longer having an emergency medical centre at Wickham Hospital, there are also concerns as to what constitutes a minor injury. What can you go with and what can't you go with? Well, to help us out, we've got Dr. Jeff Payne on the line, who's Medical Director for NHS in Buckinghamshire. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
So I'm confused. What kind of injuries will be treated? And if I turned up with something that was too severe, would I be turned away?
You certainly wouldn't be turned away, no. To answer your question, it's the sort of cuts and bruises, sprains and strains, bites and stings, scalds, minor burns.
Does anyone really go to a hospital with a sprain or a sting?
Oh, absolutely,
Do
yes.
they really?
Yes, we would actually rather prefer them to take advice either from NHS Direct or their community pharmacy or their GP, but actually people do turn up to hospital with those sorts of minor things. But really, the main difference, I think, for the minor illness, minor injury unit at Wickham as opposed to the EMC is that the seriously ill and seriously injured patients, typically brought there by ambulance, will instead be taken to either Stoke Mandeville or to Wexham Park Hospital. So it doesn't actually rely on patients knowing where to go with what condition.
Will it add any extra time? Will it put lives at risk, I guess, is the question?
No, it won't put lives at risk. And indeed, the whole reason for the changes that we're bringing about really is to improve safety, to improve outcomes for patients. So that helps to ensure that patients get treated in the right place for their condition. And we have been working very closely with the ambulance service so they know exactly where to take patients with any given emergency condition.
It's interesting you say that because we have heard issues, and I've experienced it as well. The communication between hospitals isn't always great. Is that going to improve?
That's something, again, we've worked on, and also communication between the ambulance and their excellent paramedics and the hospital, so that if there is any doubt as to where the best place to take a patient is, they can actually ask the hospital. That's a very important safety point.
Is it going to be a 24-hour service?
Absolutely. During the consultation exercise we went through earlier in the year, very important to the local population that it was a 24-hour 7 service, and that's what we're going to provide.
And what's been done to make local people aware of this?
We have actually done a leaflet drop in the Wickham area explaining the new unit, explaining the alternatives for those more minor things we started talking about, and giving some general advice as well.
Doctor, I've got to go back to it. I'm amazed. Are you seriously telling me that someone would go to a hospital who's been stung by a bee?
Absolutely. Clearly, for some people, that can actually be a life-threatening emergency.
Of course it can.
If they're allergic. But we do see people with really very minor things. And that's a significant concern because that's significant cost for the health service.
How do you, as a doctor, you must get furious at that.
Well, part of what we're trying to do with the new unit is actually encourage people to make more appropriate use of the health service in the future. So for unregistered, that is patients who are not registered with the GP, we'll actively help them to register with the GP. Some patients we may actually turn away if it really is such a minor thing that they could go to the local pharmacy and get some help. That's what we'll tell them to do. So I think it's time for us to be just a little bit assertive so that the health service is there for the people who need it, and those are the ones we need to focus on.
Dr. Jeff Payne, thank you very much, Medical Director for NHS in Buckinghamshire. I'm amazed by that. Yeah, of course, if you're allergic to bee stings, then they can be fatal. You know pretty quickly if you're allergic to a bee sting, though. Wow. Find that absolutely amazing. We have been talking about compact discs as well this morning because it's the 30th birthday of the compact discs. Iain, CDs are rubbish. Vinyl forever. Mike, I do like my records, but my first CD was Brothers in Arms by Dire Straits as Peter Milton Keynes. I think that was for a lot of people as well. The first million-selling compact disc, I think. And Barry in Hemel says, my tenuous Beatles connections, I know someone who once bought one of their records. Fantastic. More of those on Friday. 8:46, Monday the 1st of October. These are your headlines this morning on BBC Three Counties Radio. Europe's golfers are celebrating one of the most remarkable victories in the 85-year history of the Ryder Cup after beating the US by just 1 point. Research commissioned by BBC Three Counties Radio suggests that 5 out of 6 people have no idea about the police commissioner elections set to take place next month. In sport, as England's cricketers prepare to play host Sri Lanka in the World 2020 this afternoon, it appears Kevin Peterson is about to be welcomed back into the England setup. Your weather across Beds, Herts and Bucks. It's a cloudy morning with outbreaks of rain, gradually becoming drier by the afternoon. Top temperature 17 degrees. And coming up, pensions. Have you got one? From now on, you could get one automatically. Find out next.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Now, if you don't already have a workplace pension, you could find yourself with one soon, because today the government's scheme to get everyone into a workplace pension starts to roll out. Auto-enrolment requires all employers eventually to enrol their workers into a scheme if they're not already in one. Figures obtained by Three Counties show a dramatic fall in the number of people having a workplace pension since 2007. Only a quarter of people under 30 have an employer pension they contribute to. Well, Rory Joseph is a pensions expert from Hertfordshire-based JLM Independent Wealth Management. Good morning, Rory.
Morning.
These changes start today.
Yep.
Does that mean that from today everyone will automatically be paying into a pension? Is it immediate?
No.
Right.
It's starting today for the very largest employers in the UK, so probably Tesco's, Sainsbury's, Morrison's, those kind of companies, and it's slowly trickling down through the rest of us, and the process finishes in 2017 for current businesses.
Supposing I employed like one person as my PA, would I have to put some of their money into a...
As of 2017, yes.
I don't, by the way. I don't have a PA, but I'm just checking. OK. People will be enrolled automatically.
Yeah.
It's an opt-out system, isn't it?
It is, yes.
And is that easy to opt out? How do you do that?
It's fairly easy. You effectively inform your employer that you want to opt out. As long as you do it in the first 30 days, I think it is, of joining, then you get back any money you've paid in.
Right.
You can go back in again.
Right.
And you have, in a sense, 2 goes at it. If you then choose to opt out yet again, then it's down to your employer as to whether they'll let you back in a third time.
Oh, really?
Yes.
They can be a little bit...
Absolutely, because they're contributing towards it. So
right.
I guess the take on it is that an employer doesn't want to constantly be putting money in, then stopping, then putting money in, then stopping.
Right. So what don't bore us too much with numbers, but what are the figures? How much does the employee put in? How much does the employer put in?
It's phased. So as of today, 1% each. The employer's bit is going to go up to 3%, the employee's bit is going to go up to 4%, and then the employee gets tax relief on their bit. So the total's 8% going in, but that's only going to be kicking in around about 2016. So it's going to kind of slowly step up.
I know. I've got an accountant. No, it was easy, but I'm an idiot. I've got an accountant, I've got a pension, I've not paid anything in this year, it's been a quiet year, but I've had the tax relief explained to me, and it's like, well, if you put in £600, you get... I've got no idea how any of it works. I think that's the problem with pensions, is that people... I've had it explained to me by very intelligent people, yourself included, I still don't get it. And I think that's the problem, is that most people will go, well, hang on, I've got to pay... it's money that I'm earning that I don't see...
Yeah, it is frankly too complicated. I mean, the kick-in mark is at £8,100 and something pounds. Brilliant. If you earn less than that, you contribute up to your earnings to 42 and a bit thousand. It's kind of tied into tax thresholds. New Zealand brought out a very similar scheme about 5 years ago called Kiwi Save, and it was a very, very straightforward scheme, which is it was in or it was out. There was one place where your money went into, you took it with you for the rest of your life. And frankly, as we often do in the UK, we've made things slightly more complicated, perhaps, than they need to be.
Is it going to be worth it, though? If 4% doesn't sound like much.
Better than zero, though.
But not much better than zero.
No, but I mean, if you
will you be able to survive in your old age? Let's assume that at some point in the future, the age of retirement becomes 70. will you be able to live for the next 20, 30 years on that tiny little bit you've put in?
Unfortunately, the whole idea of this is that something's better than nothing.
Right.
I mean, to give you a slightly silly example, if someone at age 20 started putting away £200 a month and it got invested in a decent pension, stopped at 40 because family was getting older and they had high outgoings, by the time they were 65, they'd have about £1 million sitting in a pot.
What?
Yep.
What? But the thing is, and you said that an interesting thing there, if they put it in a good pension.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a good pension. It's all hit and miss. It's like going to the casino, isn't it? Going, put it all on black. Because it's all hit and miss.
It is. The difficulty is most people treat their pension just like you say. They put it all on black, one spin of the wheel, that's it, done.
Yeah.
If a sensible attitude is effectively to go to a casino with a much smaller stake every month and put a tiny bit on the card.
The spread bet. You want to do the spread bet.
And effectively that's what you're doing, is as long as you keep an eye on it, you can kind of iron out some of the crazy up and downs.
When I went for my pension assessment, they kind of like get you to fill in the questionnaire to decide how much of a risk taker you are. And he said to me, I've never seen anyone who doesn't want to take any risks. I was like in the lowest category. I don't want to risk any of my money.
The difficulty is it's the old risk and reward thing.
Yeah.
You're not going to get anything back if you don't take any risks. So frankly, stick it under your bed.
Yeah.
Then you've just got a risk of being burgled, but that's about it.
Going back to this system that's being changed today, it's great because I love doing this job because I just use the guests to get free advice for me. It's wonderful. This is for permanent employees. What about people who've got a 6-month or a 9-month or a 12-month contract?
The rules are frankly constantly fuzzy, so they keep being shifted around. To a great extent, it's great for everybody that these big companies are, in a sense, going to have to experience all the teething problems. And the idea is that employees, if they're on a regular contract, will be able to join. The self-employed will be able to set up their own auto-enrolment schemes for themselves, if they wish.
Right.
And the main advantage of that is most of these schemes have got very kind of fixed fees and fixed charges, which are fairly cheap. So that's the appeal of them. So the idea is, yes, they are for everybody, but the people who are being auto-enrolled have to tick a couple of basic boxes.
Yeah, let's have, talking pounds. If someone's earning £20,000 a year, how much money are they going to lose per year? No, it's not lose, but how much less will they take home per year?
Okay, so to start off with, if I work for a big supermarket today, I'm going to lose 1% of my wages as of today.
Yep.
So that's about £200 a year, and that's going to slowly step up to £800.
Okay. It doesn't seem that...
It's not... I mean, this is the difficulty with pensions, is somebody putting £800 a year away is not an awful lot of money, but you know what? It's a lot better than what most people are doing at the moment, which is nil.
Again, I was told 15% minimum.
15% would give you a really good pension. Yeah.
The employers, they're going to have to find extra money. Where does that come from? Does the government help them, or is it's coming out of their pocket entirely?
Coming out of their pockets, and I have to say quite a few of the companies we're dealing with now, who are a good 3 years off needing to get into a scheme, are thinking about starting something up now so they can ease themselves into it.
Because they won't be happy about that, will they? Forking out more cash.
Well, if you're a small business with, say, 10 employees earning an average of £20,000, you're putting in total 3% of each of their wages. That adds up to an awful lot of money straight off your bottom line.
Yeah. Is this being brought in because in 30 years' time we're not going to have state pensions? Are we being geared up for that?
The government say no. I think it's a distinct possibility.
Really? That's terrifying if that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, the difficulty we've got at the moment is a lot of our pensions are means tested, so consequently a lot of the benefits you get when you're retired are means tested. Now, the big worry at the moment is people are saying, well, I'm being forced into contributing to this pension scheme. Am I actually basically then going to lose stuff that the state would give me otherwise? If you look at most other countries who've got auto-enrolment, they have a set pension, a bit like the universal pension they're talking about bringing in the UK.
Yep.
If that comes along, that's a lot more cut and dry because everybody gets that regardless, and if you built up some extra through auto-enrolment or whatever, that's on top.
I always get so anxious when we talk about pensions because it makes me think, God, I'm so not in a position to be an old man. Rory, thank you so much for coming in.
My pleasure.
To talk to you. Explained it excellently. Rory Joseph there is a pensions expert from Hertfordshire-based JLM Independent Wealth Management. Thank you very much. Now, we were talking about the hospital in Wickham, where the emergency department is closing down, and it's going to be for like cuts and sprains and stings and things like that. Cynthia is in High Wycombe. Good morning, Cynthia.
Good morning.
Are you going to mourn the change of function of this hospital?
Well, I think it's a disgrace, actually.
Why is that?
Well, we've got the major motorway, the Handy Cross, which is hell at Handy Cross. And, you know, we got 2 football clubs. And me personally, you know, I've had a brain hemorrhage.
Wow.
And if anything happens to me, I can't go to Wickham Hospital. I'm going to have to travel to Stokenchurch or to Stoke Mandeville.
How much longer would that add to your journey, do you think?
It's going to be much longer. It's going to be about half an hour.
See, that's potentially life-threatening, isn't it?
It is.
But if you get a bee sting, Cynthia, you're sorted.
Oh, no, I wouldn't go for a bee sting or spraying. To me...
Can you believe people do that? I was so shocked by that.
Yeah, only if you've got an allergy to the bee, that makes sense. But, you know, no, I wouldn't go for what they're saying. To me, it's just like a GP.
Cynthia, when you got ill, what happened? How quickly did you become ill and realise that you were in a serious situation?
I didn't. I thought I had a bad migraine and I was laying down for 3 days, and luckily I had a very good doctor when I went on the 3rd day, and he could see there was something wrong with me, but I didn't have all the correct symptoms, but his gut instinct said I had something wrong. And I ended up at Wickham, but then I ended up at the John Radcliffe, because I went to Wickham on the Wednesday, ended up at the John Radcliffe on the Thursday, and they saw, you know, I had a major bleed and I was operated on the Friday.
Wow, that's quick. And is everything fine now? You're all well and good?
Yes, nobody believes that I've had a brain hemorrhage, and this was May 2006. All I've been left, I'm a bit slower, that's all, but I haven't been left with any disability otherwise, which is very lucky for me.
Sorry, I've got 30 seconds, I'm fascinated. Do you notice that you're slower, or are you functioning at normal speed in your head?
I'm thinking at normal speed in my head, but I get tired quickly, that's all.
Well, Cynthia, thank you so much for calling and sharing that, and I wish you the best of luck with everything.
Thank you very much, bye.
Thank you very much. What a nice lady. There's a story, isn't there? There's a story to end on. Wow. Someone very upset that the hospital in Wickham is losing its A&E department. Thank you, Sophie. That's it. The end of the show. Back tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Plenty more stuff. Do stick around, though, after 9. Jonathan's on holiday, of course, he always is. It's the wonderful Bill Buckley. Have a good one, Bill.
Thank you very much, Ian. Yeah,
Hearts and Bucks talking.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Yes, it's Bill Buckley in for JVS.